over rupees 528 crores towards the PM CARES Fund, and through its Family Welfare Foundation, we are contributing 12 oxygen plants for hospitals in Delhi, Haryana, Maharashtra, Himachal Pradesh and Rajasthan.
Amidst recovering economy after pandemic and changing geopolitical situations, Make in India for the World is the mantra for the future. A webinar with a similar theme was organized by DPIIT, in which PhD Chamber was a participant. Make in India brings infinite opportunities for Indian manufacturers to fulfill the domestic demand and meet international quality standards of the products. At this historical juncture of India's emergence, which are being celebrated as Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, the PhD Chamber stands like a pillar of strength for the industry and in solidarity with the government to make in India for the world. Intermittently, an era takes shape and attains eternal glory. That Amrit Kal, or immortal era of India, has blissfully arrived. Propelled by the vision of the Honorable Prime Minister of India, standing at its 75th years of independence, is poised to shape its era of growth, greatness and preeminence.
अमृत काल का लक्ष्य है एक ऐसे भारत का निर्माण जहां दुनिया का हर
very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to Defense Expo 2022. Yes, this is the 12th edition of Defense Expo and the biggest in the glorious country of India, with its theme being a path to pride. And what a glorious moment for all of us in the city of Gujarat, known for its historical and cultural traditions, for history and journey from roots to wing is timeless. Ladies and gentlemen, the aim of Defense Expo is to build upon the vision to achieve Atmanirbhar in defense to reach $5 billion defense exports target by 2024. And our session will get started with PhD CCI, who has been vibrant Defense and HLS Committee with active participation from PD, SU's DRDO, global OEMs, and Indian private defense companies, especially the SMEs. The government of India over the past few years has demonstrated its commitment towards the development of the defense manufacturing capabilities by launching and promoting the Make in India defense sector. India's startup ecosystem, which is propelling India's digital economy, is now expanding its presence in the defense domain by innovating niche, cutting-edge technologies for the Indian military. And so it is important for all of us to discuss and deliberate on the challenges and opportunities in the financing and investment in defense startups and MSMEs. With this, ladies and gentlemen, we'll kickstart with our first segment, and I would request our chairman, PhD CCI, Defense and HLS Committee, Mr. M.K. Gupta, to kindly join us on the stage for the welcome address. May I request you all to kindly put your hands together and help me to welcome Mr. Sure. Also, at the same time, I would like to invite our guest of honor, Dr. Sameer V. Kamath, Secretary, Department of Defense R&D and Chairman, Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO. A very warm welcome, sir. Next, may I request Mr. Salil Gupte, President, Boeing India, to kindly joining and requesting. And next is Chairman, PhD, CCI, Gujarat State Chapter Defense Committee, Mr. Dhaval Rawal. A very warm welcome, sir. Next, may I request our Head Land System Defense and Aerospace Adani Group, Mr. Ashok Vadhavan. Next, may I request our founder, Sagar Defense Engineering, Captain Nikunj Parashar, to kindly join us on the stage, please. Next, may I request our founder and CTO, Big Bamboo Solutions, Dr. R. Shivaraman, to kindly join us on the stage, please. Next, may I request our Director, New Space Research and Technologies, Mr. Julius Amrit, to join us on the stage, please. Well, on that note, once again, requesting and welcoming our Chairman, PhD CCI Defense and HLS Committee, Mr. M.K. Gupta, to kindly join us on the dais for the welcome note.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry we are starting a bit late, but then because of some traffic issues and a lot of confusion amongst delegates about the venue, they were not able to reach in time. So on behalf of PhD CCI, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Shri Dr. Sameer V. Kamath, Secretary, Defense, Department of Defense R&D and Chairman DRDO. Shri Sanjay Jaji ji, probably she will be joining us late. Mr. Sanil Gupta, he is on way, he is about to join in next few minutes. Mr. Dhaval Rawal, Chairman, PhD CCI, Gujarat Chapter, Defense Committee. Mr. Ashok Vadhavan, he is also on way and he just rang me up that he is joining in few minutes. Captain Nikunj Parashar, Founder Saga Defense Engineering. Dr. Shivaraman, Founder and CTO, Big Bang Boom Solutions. Mr. Julius Amrit, Director, New Space Research and Technologies. Mr. Arjun Agarwal, Managing Director, Aerodyne. Industry members, friends from media. for their presence for this international conference for financing and investments in defense startup and MSMEs. Other dignitaries, delegates who have joined here for this meaningful and timely conference. PhD CCI has a vibrant defense and HLS committee with active participation from DPSUs, DRDO, global OEMs, and Indian private defense companies, especially the MSMEs. We are a MSME-focused chamber. The committee is consistently working in alignment with the vision of our Honorable Prime Minister for Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat, and addressing the issues and concern of the industry through policy documents, interactive sessions with the concerned stakeholders. The much-awaited measures which have been announced by the government in the last 2 years or few years for the growth of Indian defense sector is a welcome step. It will certainly fuel the growth of defense MSMEs also. With several initiatives of the government to indigenize and encourage innovation in the sectors, there were huge opportunities for the MSMEs. The units should look at not just producing for the Indian needs, but also explore export opportunities. Global OEMs are open to sourcing from India. The aerospace and defense industry is of strategic importance to any nation, and so the Ministry of Defense acknowledges the fact that India needs to increase self-defense, self-reliance in its own national interest. On the other hand, the Indian international defense industry today is global in nature with a complex network of global supply chains. Therefore, it is imperative for Indian companies, especially the MSMEs, to integrate themselves into the supply chain of national and international defense majors in order to reduce dependence on foreign supplies and also to gain a foothold in the international aerospace and defense market. India's offset policy will also go a long way in ensuring this object in the long run. We have a huge offset obligations, almost to a tune of $10 billion. The role of manufacturing and MSMEs in particular is significant for country's development. The growth of MSME sector can contribute to India's economic prosperity through its significant impact on poverty reduction, employment generation, social influences, development, and uniform wealth distribution. Given this background, we would like to further discuss how MSMEs have built or can build a sustainable defense and aerospace manufacturing boom in the country. There is also a need to promote investment and funding in defense sector, both in R&D and production, especially for MSMEs and startup for a greater self-reliance and indigenization. I hope this platform and seminar will provide to be an appropriate forum to discuss and deliberate upon the issues in financing and investments in the backbone of our defense industry, that is, the MSMEs and startups who have been fueling the growth of the sector and paving the way forward for developing Indian defense and aerospace manufacturing and exports. We welcome you once again. Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gupta. Well, on that note, I'm going to request Mr. M.K. Gupta to kindly help us to hand over the memento to our guest of honor, Dr. Sameer V. Kamath, Secretary, Department of Defense R&D, Chairman, Defense Research and Development Organization, that is DRDO. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning. It's an absolute honor, and it gives me immense pleasure once again that what a blessing it is for all of us as you have joined us on Defense Expo 2022 Day 1. Next, I'm going to request Mr. Gupta once again to give you the trouble to hand over the memento to Mr. Salil Gupte, who's the President of Boeing India. A very warm welcome, sir. Next, Mr. Gupta, may I request you to help us to hand over the bouquet and memento to Mr. Dhaval Rawal, Chairman, PhD, CCI, Gujarat State Chapter Committee. Next, may I request Captain Nikunj Parashar to kindly join us next, and I'm going to request M.K. Gupta, sir, to kindly hand over the memento. Next, may I request a very warm welcome, sir. Mr. Ashok Vadhavan, Headland Systems Defense and Aerospace Adani Group has joined us. Once again, a very warm welcome, sir. Next, may I request Dr. Nasir Jamal, who's the Secretary Defense, HLS, PhD, CCI, to kindly join us on the stage and help us to hand over the memento. To start with, may I request Mr. Ashok Vadhavan to kindly join us and collect the memento from PhD CCI. Next, may I request Dr. R. Shivaraman to kindly join us, as may I request Dr. Nasir Jamal to kindly help us to hand over the memento to Dr. R. Shivaraman. Thank you so much, Dr. Nasir. Well, with this, as we have got eminent speakers amongst us, may I request you, ladies and gentlemen, to kindly put your hands together once again, as we're going to get started with funding the defense startups and MSMEs for an Atmanirbhar Bharat. With this, over to you, gentlemen. May I request Mr. Salil Gupteji to kindly join us first.
Sure. You have to invite every speaker one by one. How many minutes? Okay, no problem. I don't think I'll take up all my time. Thank you all for joining. Thank you all for braving the security to come inside and joining us, this august group for this gathering. So I'm Salil Gupte. I have a number of avatars. I think I'm the chairman of CII's Committee on Aerospace, and I'm, of course, the president of Boeing India as well. But I'm a bit of an odd bird to be the head of Boeing in India, because I am not an engineer. I was not good enough at maths growing up in school to be, like many of my panelists here, in the technological development sector of the space in which we all work. I am actually a finance person by training. I'm a banker by training, which I think actually helps for this particular panel as we figure out how to fund startups and MSME in defense as we try to seek Atmanirbhar Bharat here and discuss that in Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar this week. So Boeing works with quite a few MSMEs. So over the past 10 years, Boeing has ramped up its presence in India, and really even over the last 4 years, 3-4 years that I have been here leading Boeing in India, we have ramped up our work with MSMEs. We work with about 70 different MSMEs out of 300 different Indian partners that do manufacturing with us here in India. And that is about 8,000 crores worth of work that we purchase here from India and export. And again, a significant portion of that is manufacturing. Now, achieving that takes, on behalf of a large foreign OEM like us, it takes a few efforts to achieve that. One is you have to have a big team. You have to have a team. I have a team of about 150 people based in Bangalore that, for the most part, focus on work reaching out to MSMEs and converting them from other industries in which they work into aerospace and defense. So, for example, there'll be quite a few MSMEs that we work with that are in the automotive sectors or other industrial sectors for forgings or machine parts or simple assemblies, and we work to get them skilled in the handling of aerospace-grade materials, where, of course, the caliber of the materials are different. The tolerances have to be very much tighter when you're making things that fly versus things that are on the ground. And getting them up to speed on all of those areas so that they can enter the aerospace supply chain. As a matter of fact, we even have worked with raw materials providers like Midhani, DPSU, which is not an MSME, but to bring them into our supply chain. So this is an active development activity that has to happen if you're a large OEM that is seeking to build this capability of working with MSMEs in India. And so I give that example. So that is from the foreign OEM side of things, what you as a large company have to do. And I would argue that even for the Indian OEMs, like we have a giant like Adani sitting here on this august panel, I would argue that those types of companies, whether it's Adani, Tata, Mahindra, will have to have that same capability, that outreach ability to work with the MSME sector and work with startups. Similarly, we've had incubator programs, accelerator programs to work with various startups, both outside of the university level, but also within universities. We fund startups and try to mentor them so that they can bring their wares to the marketplace. So these are all things as large organizations that we can do. But there's another element to this as well, which is increasing the availability of financing for startups and MSMEs. Because let's be honest, defense is a very, very capital-intensive business. And aerospace within defense might be the most capital-intensive. I mean, if you have a startup coming along outside of UAVs and certain technological software areas, say, I'm going to start, I'm going to go into the defense sector, most venture capitalists or mentors will probably try to talk them out of it because of that capital intensity and because of the long lead times in the defense space. Before you have a prototype, before you have a contract, you could be looking at 7 to 10 years before you are able to bring that first product to fruition. And very few startups or MSMEs have the financial wherewithal, unless they're a spin-off of some large conglomerate. Very few of them have that financial wherewithal to last that long. And so we look globally for examples. Well, how does this work in other countries? And there's a few examples that we could look at. First, in the US, obviously Boeing is a US company, so we have experience there. You have the government funds a minimum volume of dollars into startups and equivalent of MSMEs, they don't call them that in the US, but small businesses that are getting into the defense space, that are focusing their research in specific high-tech areas. And the numbers are quite large. Now, obviously, it's the US, so the total number, for example, DARPA might be investing is over $3 billion a year. But they limit themselves to only 200, 250 investments, which means that each company they're investing in is getting upwards of 80, 90 crores in US dollars, so $12 million or so, per investment. And so that gives them the financial wherewithal to see themselves through to that prototype stage. Now, obviously, India does not have $3 billion as, whatever, India does not have 20,000 crores to invest in this kinds of activity. But what we would argue is even at a smaller level of total funding, you should focus on value as opposed to volume. We should focus on a smaller number of larger investments, perhaps, than spreading it extremely thin, which I think is what we do today, right? Now, there are some very successful examples where that spreading it thin has worked. IDEX, of course, is 500 crores spread out across many different companies, 89 companies. And we work with some IDEX candidates today already. And so you've had success. But what I would argue is that is a very broad, scattered portfolio. And if you want to increase your odds of success, perhaps you consider reducing the number of investments and increasing the size individually of each of those. So that's one. That's one lesson that we take from the global marketplace. Another lesson that I take from the global marketplace is the hand-holding and collaboration that can occur between DPSUs and the startup and the MSME ecosystem. So I'll give you the example of Israel. Israel, which by the way has a very significant percentage of its GDP invested in research and development. If you look at Israel, they invest somewhere around 5% of their GDP in research and development, as opposed to India is a little bit less than 1%. Okay, so R&D in this space is a huge focus for Israel. But the other thing that they do is with their public sector undertakings, the state entities, they require them, they actually create a division of those PSUs specifically to mentor and handhold MSMEs and startups. And this creates a very interesting dynamic because sometimes if you talk to MSMEs and startups in India, it feels to them like they might be competing with the DPSUs in many cases. And that relationship is not conducive towards partnership that makes the MSMEs and startups part of the DPSU's supply chain, for example. If they were investing in, say, advanced materials or technologies that can go into new platforms that a DPSU or electronics that a DPSU is developing. So having that deliberate effort from the DPSU side and making it a mandate that they partner with startups and MSMEs is something more that we can do. Some of it might be happening in some pockets, but it's something more that we can do as well. And the other thing, last thing I will say, just in the interest of time, is funding. So look, venture capital in India, there's about $38 billion of venture capital that's invested annually every year. Let's be honest, it doesn't come into our space for the most part, right? I mean, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but most of these venture capitalists are chasing opportunities to get a kati roll delivered faster to, some apartment complex somewhere, okay? They're focused on the consumer space because that's where the money is in their minds. So how do you change that? You change that by having venture capital pockets of funding that are specifically focused on our space. And I think it was mentioned that there's a large amount of offset dollars that are available. What if you had a fund that was not fully comprised of offset dollars, but potentially seeded with offset dollars, where you gave offset credit, you had I'm just saying, 5,000 crore fund, of which 20-30% was seeded by offset dollars, where OEMs got some level of offset credit if they put the money in to that fund with no promise of return. And the returns from their portion of the fund simply go to fuel further funds. And then you would have other VCs come in as part of the rest of the fund, specifically to invest in this space, to try to bolster the amount of funding that is available here. That is just something that I would put forward because that gets the ball rolling on additional venture capital that will chase opportunities in defense and security. And there are so many opportunities from materials to electronics to cybersecurity. And you see people doing good work in these areas. You see, I was just talking with our friends from SIDM, Mr. Kanodia at Precision Electronics. He is trying to put together a small consortium of companies where he invests in they invest in startups and they try to build these small funds, but these are subscale, right? Doing something what I'm describing can really take this to the next level, and that funding piece has to be there. So those are some of the concepts that I would put forward to try to increase funding and investment in this space. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Salilji. You have put the right perspective that obviously we need funds which are actually focused on the to investment in defense sector, especially not in the consumer space where the startups seem to find much more returns. Thank you so much for deliberating and giving a global perspective about it in the Indian context. Sir, do we have your time permission? Because we will invite the other speakers also. If you want, we can invite you first to speak. So we have, I think due to the paucity of time, Dr. Sameer V. Kamath, the Secretary Department, Defense R&D, and Chairman DRDO is here to share his thoughts and perspectives on the subject. Over to you, sir.
So distinguished panelists, guests, ladies and gentlemen, I'm also very happy to be here. And unlike Mr. Gupte, who's a finance man, I'm a technology man. This is a very important topic because this is now the time for us to gear up. Our Prime Minister has made Atmanirbharta a key ingredient of our strategy to become a developed country. He has set us a goal that in the next 25 years, or as he calls it, the Amrit Kal, we have to transform into a developed country. And one of the only ways that we can do this is if we become a technology leader. And a lot of the technologies, as the US experience has also shown, get developed for the defense sector and the aerospace sector and eventually get diffused into the civilian sectors. And that's where the economic growth can also happen. So far in our defense sector, both the R&D as well as the production was controlled by the government. The user was also the government. So it was a very closed ecosystem. And whenever you have a closed ecosystem, the innovation levels remain low. But as you are all aware, there is a transformation which is now happening. In the manufacturing, the transformation is much more ahead than in R&D. But in the last budget, our Honorable Finance Minister has announced that 25% of the defense R&D budget will also be used to finance R&D in the private sector. I think this is an ideal opportunity for the startups and MSMEs to gear up and be a major player in providing innovation, which is the key for us to transform to a leadership position, especially in the defense equipment or defense systems. So at DRDO, we had been working with MSMEs and startups for a long time, but it was more in terms of build to print. DRDO, we used to do the design and then approach startups and MSMEs to do the manufacturing for us. And then we used to integrate that and develop a system or a product. That funding used to happen through either development contracts or supply orders. I think that is now going to change. We now have a technology development fund. You must have heard of TDF, where until say about 2 months back, the amount of funding was up to 10 crores. So this is more a project-based funding, where we would define the kind of problems which need solution, kind of products which our services need or our DRDO labs need. And this would be advertised in our website. And then any startup or MSME could present a proposal to say that they could address this need. And then there was an evaluation process and a project was awarded. We have now, I'm very happy to say that just a couple of months back, the limit for this TDF has now been enhanced to 50 crores. As Mr. Gupte said, it is better to focus on few areas than spread ourselves thin. So with the same intent, this funding level has now been raised to 50 crores. We are also trying to speed up the time it takes to award this project. Typically, it took about 6 months previously. Our aim is to get it to below 3 months. Because speed is also of great essence when you want to do technology development, because innovations keep happening globally. It is not that people are waiting for you to come up with things. People everywhere are looking at developing these technologies. Another great possibilities which allows us to now take a step up and catch up with countries which have a lead on us is there are several disruptive technologies which have emerged. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, quantum technologies, cognitive technologies, unmanned systems. As you must be seeing in the Ukraine-Russia war, it is not someone who has a larger army or bigger tanks or bigger vehicles who can win a war these days. There are disruptive technologies which allow countries which are not so-called advanced also to use these disruptive technologies to transform the battlefield. I think startups and MSMEs are best suited to do these innovations, and in times or development times which are much shorter than what it took in the government sector, because the kind of flexibility you have, you don't have the past baggage, you don't have the bureaucracy to deal with. So from DRDO side, I can assure you that although we are not a venture capitalist, we do project-based funding. We will assist you, we will mentor you, we will help you in whatever you need. And my wish is in the next 5 years, we will create a vibrant ecosystem of MSMEs and startups which will help us in realizing our Prime Minister's vision. Thank you.
Now we have a chairman of our Defense Committee Gujarat chapter, Mr. Dhaval Rawal, who is actually promoting, sir, a mega defense cluster, which is focusing on MSMEs and startups. They are here in Gujarat, and also he's promoting a mega cluster in US. So he will give a perspective on how he's promoting these startups and MSMEs and also funding them and financing them. Over to Dhavalji.
Thank you, Nasirji. Respected dignitaries on dais and august gathering in this hall, I see three kind of the presence here. One is the industry captains and leaders from defense sector, including the startups and SMEs who are coming here to access the funds and investment. Second, I also see the bankers and investors here from Gujarat who are excited to invest their portfolio in defense sector. And third, important is the various print and digital media present here. And their role is very crucial because they will be witnessing the success stories of startups and announcement of investments today. So I request them to put this as a prime news item on first page of newspaper or prime time in digital media. The subject today is the opportunity in investment in defense sector. But I believe that rather than an opportunity, this is a necessity. This is a subject of a national security. It is a different from other business and investments. We know our soldiers guard the borders 24/7, 365 days, and because of them, we are having a peaceful sleep here. And they face the extreme weather conditions and hostile enemies always. We don't know. We need to support them at least by providing the latest technology, indigenous technology, superior technology than our enemies. If we just see the road past some decades history, we have brought all the platforms from Western world or Russia, including tanks and helicopters, planes, everything. And our forces are always facing the issue of inventory and spares to keep them up. Acute shortage of spares to keep the inventory up. So in defense, we cannot rely on the imports always. It is a threat to our national security. We are investing in gold, in stock market, in commodities, in properties very well. We are now developing and growing economy, doing very well. But if our borders are not secured, this investment will go in vain. Take the history of ancient India. We have seen on the video recently from PhD's chambers, भारत सोने की चिड़िया कहलाता था, आज भी बन सकता है. Recently, if you don't want to go in very ancient time, see the Ukraine. The country is what they are facing today. So, to secure the country's economy and the future of our generations, a strong industrial, defense industrial base, military industrial base is required for the country, and this cannot be done without the inflow of investment and funds. I would like to take this opportunity to also speak about some latest investment opportunities and trends and the latest developments in this sector. As the earlier speakers have said, our Honorable Prime Minister has laid down a vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat and Make in India in defense. And there are a number of steps and measures have been taken which are historical, and it will be remembered always as a change in the path. Starting from the announcement of DPP 2016 by late Defense Minister Shri Parikar ji, and up to today, under the leadership of our Defense Minister Rajnath Singh ji, the government is working on a mission mode to invite the private industry and private players to take a leading role in this defense indigenization process. There is a very number of huge lists, but to name a few, as the sir has said, TDB from DRDO, then more focus on domestic procurement up to the platform level. This is a bold decision, sir. To declare a negative list of import, this includes not only the spare or subsystems, it includes some lightweight battle tanks also. And IDEX platform, which invites the young minds of India to do the research development in the military's issues and problems and do the innovative products for our forces, which has listed around 137 challenges successfully. This is now DIX 8 is running. And the volumes, if we say, we have some study that it is estimated that in next 5 to 8 years, an amount of 137 billion US dollars is earmarked for the procurement for our forces. That is going up to 10 lakh crore of rupees, so not a small chunk, it is a big thing. Not only the domestic market, the numbers in the global defense spending is attractive. The aerospace and defense combined spending by the world is around 2,500 billion US dollars, is equal to 2.5 trillion, very nearby to the GDP of the country like India. And I believe that with our strong industrial base, India has a strong merit to take a big chunk from this pie. If I tell about the industrial base, sir, Gujarat has 6 lakh SMEs. Out of them, 75,000 are engineering SMEs, and only one district, that is Rajkot, has a concentration of 15,000 engineering companies in one district. So it is not a small thing. if we consider the merits, I have spoken with some foreign OEMs also. If we compare with the US and Western world, the hiring cost of an aerospace engineer is around 200,000 to 300,000 US dollars. That comes to around 2 crore rupees. In India, you can hire 10 people. We have this industrial base, we have a largest pool of the technically trained manpower in the world, engineers, young generation, out of 141 billion, more than 30% are young. If we consider that only 10% of this defense spending from the world, if we take only 5%, it will be around 10 lakh crores export business for India. And definitely, if we compare the other industry, IT industry, the volume of export is 30 lakh crores. So defense industry can also repeat the same success story. So how we can achieve this? Speakers have said that the investments are required. How much is required? So I have some idea through my discussions with Israel aerospace industry. So I asked them how much you invest for a prototype development or a products manufacturing setup. They said, we invest 20 times, approximately 20 times of a project cost or a prototype development cost in our R&D and in our, you can say, the infrastructure setup for defense sector. India is starting afresh, so I think we should invest more, not than 20 times, we should invest 30 times. But if we even take it discounted and 10 times, if we are spending 5 lakh crores in defense sector, 10 times is 50 lakh crore of fresh investments we should make in this sector to make it growing. From this dais and on behalf of the PhD Chambers Gujarat chapter, I appeal the government agencies and departments present here to consider the investment in defense sector as a priority sector investment. As the government prioritize the investments or priority sector investment like agriculture, special economic zones, infrastructure projects. Like in agriculture, they have a scheme of 100% income tax rebate under section 35C. So suppose you set up a 10 crore investment in cold chain, your profit up to 10 crore rupees is not drawing taxes in next 10 years. So defense investment and research investment in defense sector should also have the same category. We have used CSR funds from the big corporates present here. This CSR funds should be encouraged to invest in startups and research and development. There are so many things, but the time is less. I request the banks to do aggressive funding to the SMEs for defense sector. So this is a huge and sunrising sector for Indian defense industry, Indian economic development. I can see a double-digit growth up to next 20 years in this sector. In the last, I would like to say that I appeal all the people present here that गुजरात में महाजन की परंपरा है, जो कॉरपोरेट्स है वो अपने कमाई का रेवेन्यू का लोग अपने सैलरी का भी 5% 10% दे ईयर मार्क फॉर दी गुड कॉज. मंदिर में दान देते हैं, गौशाला में देते हैं, गरीबों को अन्नदान करते हैं. मैं अपील करूंगा कि एवरीबडी प्रेजेंट हियर शुड डिसाइड आउट ऑफ योर इन्वेस्टमेंट पोर्टफोलियो आप 10% ईयर मार्क करें डिफेंस सेक्टर के लिए. एवरी पर्सन, even a salaried person or a corporate, and make this investment for the security of the country. And again, the returns are attractive. We are getting 10 to 15% or 20% of returns in defense sectors and R&D projects. So I appeal all you to do this. Our company has also taken the initiative. We are providing defense help desk for vendor registration. That is a free of cost, and we have 600 members enrolled in Gujarat under this defense sector help desk. We have also started to investing in the startups and SMEs for defense sector. My colleague Sandeep will be giving more information on this. And I again request you to consider the investment in aerospace and defense as a responsibility of a citizen. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhavalji. And thank you, Secretary Sir. He's leaving. He has to go to important. And Ashokji, I'll just request the next speaker, Mr. Ashok Badhavan, to come on the podium and to share his thoughts. Secretary Sir has to leave because he has some important meetings. Thank you so much, sir, coming.
Thank you.
For coming. Thank you, sir. Ashokji,
Thank you, sir. Please. Sorry, I was rushing it because there's another one on the conference. My colleague, you had to come in, and because of all the traffic disruptions, it's difficult to come out of the hall and come here. So I have to jump after this to the next one. I'm Ashok Badhavan. I look after land system and a couple of businesses for Adani Defense and Aerospace. I consider ourselves to be a startup. Now, I know it's a paradigm because, I come from a larger organization which does it. The reason I'm saying this, and I'll talk a little bit about it, I've been there in this sector for the last 8 to 10 years, though I'm not from the armed forces, but I've been in this sector working on developing products and bringing capabilities to the country. I started a startup, which I was in Punj Lloyd. I'd started a business there. Then I had my own startup. I ran it for 2 years, was acquired by Adani. So I'm here looking after and building a couple more businesses. So I can give a full perspective of how this sector is moving and how important the startups are and how do we really need to fund them. If you look at globally, how is defense and aerospace structured? You will find there are OEMs, which is the tier one, which is the large OEMs who bring in the platforms. And then there is a middle section which work with the OEMs. And then there's a whole gamut of startups. They all create a pyramid which actually rolls up to the OEM. The gap which exists in the country, which I've seen in so many years, is that we have a couple of OEMs which exist, and there's a huge amount of startup, which is great for the country because they're developing products, and there's no middle layer. So what happens is that, and I've seen a couple of the startups here who start very well, they have great products, but they don't get these fundings and they don't get these platforms to reach, to take to a level where their platform gets developed and is used by our forces or get matured enough to be exported. Now, how do we bridge this gap? The only way I personally feel it can be bridged is, one is obviously the intervention which government is doing, bringing IDEX, funding it, that's an opportunity. But it's companies like us, which are the large OEMs, they have to help the startups take these incubators or these products to the real sense of it and make it usable so that they can be used by our forces and exported. And that's what we are doing in Adani. We have multiple portfolios. We are doing UAVs, or we have small arms, or we have ammunition. But what we are looking at and seeing is that there are multiple startups. Like there's a farming drone startup which came in, and we realized it had huge amount of potential. We have now taken that into our wing, and we are helping that to reach to a stage because we feel, that they have a great product. It cannot just reach here, but it can do really well in Africa, and we have taken it to development. Or if you look at, the small arm business which we came in, and today it's one of the largest in the country, which we are doing it. Or, we looked at, there was a, Meher Beba organized by Air Force, where these colleges, youngsters, absolutely energetic, had these drones, which was the swarm drones, which and we took one of them, And today we are taking into productionization. They've done a great job, 200 drones going, doing a mission, coming back, and we are taking it to a situation where it will actually be eventually used and exported from here. So those are the kinds of it which will happen. So these are in the drone sphere, you'll realize that there are a few of them which has come, but not just in drones, but starting from other subsystems which will go into OEMs or developing more products like we are looking at now. We call it the slave vehicle, which moves with it, and we are looking at those which can come in and develop them. So groups like us will have to eventually take them and fund them, or there's a huge amount of knowledge base or startups which are coming in security or cyber security, or developing into a good amount of software which is one of its kind which is being used. So we are looking at those, but it has to be a cumulative effort by the government, by companies like Salil mentioned, be it the global OEMs who can support, but eventually I would still say it's the Indian large corporates which want to be and playing in this and have a long-term vision of next 30 to 40 years, bring these startups, incubate them, help them, and develop them. That's the only way you will realize that the funding can take place, great products can happen, the vision of our Prime Minister, which is Atmanirbhar Bharat, can be successful, because end of the day, it's not just the platform which needs to be developed, it's the whole subsystems or the products. We call it subsystem, but they're not subsystems. Each one is a product on its own, will get developed and incubate into it. And I've seen it once a large corporate comes in, the kind of strength which it creates, not just by funding it, but actually helping in a lot of other ways, marketing, giving them a platform, showcasing the product, and reaching it to the right conclusion. I think the only way is that we partner with each other and help and take this forward. And I'm sure a couple of companies like us are doing it, like-minded companies. And in the next 5 years is the year where you'll see these tier, which I was saying, the OEM, mid-level being created, which will help reach our goal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashok Wadhawan, the head of the Land Systems, Defense and Aerospace Adani Group. And you are right in saying that these big umbrella companies are required to actually develop the strong ecosystem of MSMEs. Thank you so much, Ashok ji, for coming here. There's a lot of problem in the traffic. That's why people are facing problem coming here. Also, the delegates are facing the problem. So, he said it right that the startup system needs a startup company like Adani, which is I'm very humble to say that it's a startup. So, thank you so much. And now I would like to invite one of the startup, Captain Nikunj Parashar, is the founder of Sagar Defense, and he's working great with the armed forces also in the unmanned systems, with the Navy and other forces. Nikunj, over to you, please.
Very good morning, all. So listening to Salil, Ashok, DRDO chairman, it's been fantastic. Discussion is on finance, but before I head into the discussion of finance, we started into something very complicated and very complex. Drones, there are a lot of open source platforms, still you can get some aeronautical engineers, and if you're doing micro or small drones, if it crashes, you don't lose much money. So I was a sailor out at sea, sailed 14 years, captain there, and they decided to start a maritime company. So 2013, I come to India. Still, Invest India had not started then. And I went around the country saying, along with the family members, there was a technology which I had developed, which was platform agnostic. So when we said this, that any kind of boat, we could fit this command control unit, turn it unmanned, teleoperated, possibly semi-autonomous then. Nobody agreed. So I wrote few letters across to the government, still no hope, went to the Navy, but they were really forthcoming. And they said, great, we have a system, where is your boat? So I said, I don't have a boat. So they said, you need to get a boat. Now getting a boat, that's expensive of stuff. So easiest was go to China, get something imported from there, which looks very fancy. I didn't go to the Indian manufacturers. It was coming in very cheap. So we bought in a boat which was just costing us $6,000. Showed it to the Navy. Navy said, no, we need a military boat. Now imagine somebody who's starting off, has a technology, and then you're talking about going on the high seas. It's very complicated. So the boat journey never took off. So now he wanted a military boat. So I said, what to do? While in this period, I said, I understand Europe. I headed to Europe. I went to Rotterdam. And Europe was very forthcoming. I was given a residence permit. They helped me to start a company there in parallel. And Invest India program was also taking off parallelly here in India. And I said, why don't I go back again and try my hands on? So we come here. This time I don't talk defense. I say, I've developed a vessel which can collect garbage out of water, vacuum cleaner for water. We started exporting out of India. So a system which we were building for 3 lakhs, we were exporting out at 30 lakh rupees. We exported around 17 systems, which helped us fund internally. Somewhere down the line, a naval officer walks into our office. We are not aware. He spends 3 hours with us without telling us that he's a naval officer, a high-ranking commodore. And he said that we searched on the net and we asked for 10 top robotic startups in the country. 3rd was your name. So we wanted to see it. And we were operating out of just 1,200 square feet office. And post 3 hours, he says, I'm a naval officer, I'm going to get you a project. And since then, we have not looked back. Now, the funding, when we say we did not have the funding, at times it's your customer who funds you indirectly. So we did the country's first unmanned boat, which was a 10-meter platform flying out at 35 knots in water controlled from 20 kilometers. A startup with a small idea took us good 5 years to really succeed into it. Who was the funder? It was the customer itself. So many places I say, for a startup, you don't need funding. How much is your conviction on your product line? As Indians, there is a mindset. We have been into Make in India in a different way. We get in a product from abroad, stamp it up. So there's a mindset change also is equally required at times. But our journey and the ordeal didn't stop there. After doing the first vessel, we were again high and dry. Now what? So we had big players, somebody already sitting here, and the others from the Israel. How do you compete against them? They don't allow you to run the race at times. And this is a true fact. So that's where programs like IDEX, DRDO, they came in. And a strong handholding from these. So the first contract we got from DRDO was for 9,25,000 rupees. Today we are executing contracts over $2 million. Not only that, even before our first funding, we set up the first factory, which was in half an acre land. And post that is where we started getting people to invest in us. We also got offers for acquisition, and that's the handholding in today's time which you get. So we did not go ahead with the acquisition. We said we'll continue doing what we have. So it's very important for each startup also to understand what his niche is. Can he run his business on his own, or does he need very strong handholdings? Because the government mindset right now is very open. And as we progress, and I said no external funding, absolutely no external funding, no TDB project. It's just the customer driven. We get the vice chief walking in to us on a visit, and he said, can you build a platform which can lift up to 100 kgs? And that was a challenge thrown across to us as we were executing a project in parallel. So he said, yes, we can. He said, we give you 6 months. If you do it, we'll buy it from you. We proudly say, then 4.5 months time, we had the country's first human carrying platform, which was showcased across to the Honorable Prime Minister this July. I was the first Indian. I keep regularly flying with it. I go for a 5-kilometer run, come back. So I have my own aircraft. Though it doesn't look fancy, but that's where you need to start. So you need to believe in yourself. In parallel to it, again, you also get strong holdings. When you really start doing it, you get strong holdings from your customers. So Tata and L&T really supported us very strongly. There were certain scenarios where we said that we require advance payments to execute the project because COVID had kicked in. They went ahead and did support. So it's your ask if you're looking at it. Secondly, by now the government has also come up with a collateral-free loan with a guaranteed issue scheme for 10 CR. So startups are being promoted. IDEX was another game changer for us. And we all know what exactly happens in IDEX is that you get a project, there's $1.5 crore which you need to invest. And there is another $1.5 crore which the government is going to give you. But when the SQR comes to you, at times you get a shock. And it happened to us. We were told that we have to develop an autonomous underwater vehicle 20 number in 3 crores. So we said, how do we do that? So we are looking at it and we are thinking that should we accept it, should we not accept it? The MOD itself and the Department of Defense Production itself was so forthcoming, and we said, sir, this requires close to 20 crores of funding for us to do it. So they asked us, Nikunj, do you have investors? I said, no. Now our investors is ONGC and IDBI Bank. We do not have such big investors who would take a risk and invest in this. So the secretary himself takes us to Musgodoc Limited, as he's on the board, and he says, guys, why don't you partner with them? The DPSU came on board and now they are investing 15 crores in the project. The project is already up and running and going at a very fast pace. Matter of fact, today at India Pavilion, the models have been done by them. We have not invested in the models also to showcase. So there is a very strong support at the government level, at the DPSU level, in the ministries, and also at the customer level. So it's on to us, especially on the startups and MSME, how do we harness it? They would take you to the lake to drink water. At the end, it's your end goal that you're going to drink it water in. So you need to prove yourself. I believe at Sagar Defense Engineering, time and again, we have been proving, we have been trying to really be at par at the world scale. And this is where, which I can't tell you officially, but we are partnering with a very big, large corporate, and now there's a contract which is in execution. This has been purely based on merit. So, jahan cha hai, wahan raah hai, I say, and please work towards it. There's an ample of opportunity. The funding is not less. Yes, VCs will not invest in you, but then you have Boeings and Adanis to your support. So please go for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikunj. Thank you for sharing your experience, the journey. You have been fortunate also, but I don't know the other startups may be so fortunate to connect with MDL and the other global OEMs like Boeing and Indian OEM like Adani. But certainly hope so for them. There are many startups here. Now we have another startup, a great startup which is working in this unmanned space. Dr. R. Shivaraman, the founder and CTO of Big Bang Boom Solutions, is another company which can be emulated, the models. Dr. Shivaraman.
Thank you, sir. I think it's a great pleasure being here, and it's really wonderful to be here today morning. I know there's been a lot of complaints on the traffic and the entry passes, etc. But I think that's always been part of the Def Expo experience. Big Bang Boom Solutions as a company started around 3-4 years back. We are very, very young as far as defense technologies are concerned. We had august speakers ahead of me telling me that the time of translation takes around 7-10 years in aerospace and defense fields, and that's absolutely true, right? We've had our fair share of challenges. We've had to innovate not only in terms of technology, but also in terms of how we finance ourselves, how we keep ourselves afloat and sustainable as we go through the entire product development initiatives. I have a couple of thoughts to share. It's partly from my journey here and partly also from what I think would be the best way forward as far as the defense technology space is concerned. See, one thing that I think everyone here must realize is that defense is a space with its own idiosyncrasies, right? Like, it's not a space like, as correctly said, it's not like an FMCG space. It's not it's not like a fast-moving space. It's not it's not a Grofers. It is not a Big Basket. It's not any of the consumer-focused spaces. It is a space that has a few eccentricities that are associated with it. Margins are great. That's the first good thing. But then time to market is long. Second, especially in the R&D phase, which is what most startups end up doing. Most startups are in the R&D phase where they build the product. The risk is very, very, very high. So it's not only a question of saying that, okay, there are no investors, there's no people who are coming in money. The problem is that the single buyer problem, saying that you can primarily only sell to the government in various forms. It may be DRDO, it may be DPSUs, it may be, you know, the Army, Navy, Air Force. It may be through any of the options, but you still need to sell it to the government. And that creates the first and the biggest hesitance when a VC or any investor comes on board. They are like, okay, what happens if you're not able to do it? Because this is not a question simply of how good you are or how fast your product is, or how, you know, there may be just strategic differences. They may just be that the end user is not interested in a product such as yours. You may have a great product, but they may not be interested in it. So how do you circumvent these things? So one of the things that we realized early on is that this risky business needs to be de-risked for an investor to get an appetite to invest in you. So one of the things that we did at Big Bang Boom, our first round of investments was through a model known as a convertible note. This is a very young instrument that the government has legalized recently, where startups that are recognized by DIPP are allowed to issue convertible notes to investors. The beauty of a convertible note is that the money comes in as a debt on day one. It is very similar to a convertible debenture, but the regulatory framework is slightly different. The money comes in as debt on day one, which means that the investor is not taking the R&D risk that is associated with the project. If the product is successful, if the projects are successful, then that gets converted to equity at a later date at a pre-agreed valuation with the discounting and so on. Now, even for something that comes in as a convertible note, the biggest question that the investor had when we first brought in money was, how will you return the money if the project fails? Right? I mean, I completely agree, debt is owed. Company owes the debt, the promoters owe the debt. But the promoters, let's say I raised around 5 crore rupees on day one. I don't have the ability to repay 5 crore rupees if I use this money up and, you know, the product is not successful. So how do you ensure, how do you give the investor the security that if the product doesn't work, you'll get money back? So what we did is we formed what is known as a Category 3 AIF. This is what the US market calls a hedge fund, what the Indian market calls an alternative investment fund. The alternative investment fund is now registered with SEBI, primarily meant for funding defense startups. This was sort of conceptualized and put together by the promoters of Big Bang Boom. We brought in investments into the hedge fund itself. And what we offered to the investor was a unique model. We said, sir, you give us, what we require today is not 5 crores on day one. What we require is, let's say, 10 lakh rupees per month for the next 3 years to ensure that I can sustain till my product gets out into the market. So let's take the money that you give. I won't touch the capital. I'll park it in a hedge fund that returns 25-26% return. This is around 8-10% more than what the Nifty returns in India. We will use the proceeds from the fund, the interest that's generated, for our operational expenses. 3 years from now, 5 years from now, when the convertible note matures, by this time my product would be ready. I'd have gone through trials. If I'm successful, I take the 5 crores, you get equity in my company. If I'm not successful, the fund will return your money with a 6% interest. That is exactly the risk that you take as, you know, let's say putting it in a FD. So you get back your money with FD interest at the end of the day if my product is not successful. Now they were like, okay, this sounds, on paper sounds fantastic, but what are the risks involved? We told him, sir, see, eventually the fund that you're investing in is an equity mutual fund, right? So the risk that you're taking is the same as the risk that you'll take with the Indian economy. Your money is sitting actually with Reliance, with Adani, with whatever is there in Nifty 50. So we gave them a proposition saying you can have the upside of investing in a fast-growing startup like Big Bang Boom with the risk appetite of investing in Nifty 50. And that a lot of investors found attractive. We raised our first $1 million in the first 1 year of our formation, just as we were cracking the IDEX projects. When we did crack the IDEX projects that we took up, we were among the first people to do this. We were winners in Disc 1 and in Disc 2. We realized that the same problem that Sagar Defense faces, saying that despite IDEX giving us 1.5 crore, we still needed to put in well over 2-3 crores for realization of any of these projects, right? So while my operational expenses were covered, there was still money that was required to take this to fruition. So then we decided that, okay, let's start doing what Indians are very, very good at, which is frugal innovation. I personally have done my PhD in nanotech. I've spent around 10 years in Indian academic institutions. I've worked with IITs, both at Bombay at the CE and the Center of Electronics and Nanotechnology in IIT Bombay, with 20 institutions as a part of my previous startup. So we created these network of institutions that will provide us with space, with manpower, and with infrastructure. And using a lot of these institutional infrastructure that actually India is pretty good at, we started creating our products at an extremely low cost. Fast forward 3-4 years now, Big Bang Boom is one of the first startups to complete trials in the IDEX space. Out of the 13 startups that have completed, 2 products are built by Big Bang Boom. Both the products have gone through the single-stage composite trials. We've received the orders for it. We are expecting that this year we'll be able to hit at least a few hundred crores of orders at a cash burn of close to 7 crores only. That is all the money that we have spent till today. This has come from 2 major things that I mentioned to you before. 1, the frugal R&D nature, that's part of our DNA. 2, the fact that we were able to raise money at extremely competitive rates by de-risking our business using the hedge fund structure that I told about. Since then, we've actually been talking about this quite a lot. We've actually given a proposal to the MOD also, saying that, sir, this model has worked very well for us. There is no reason every startup in the country or every company that's interested in raising funds should not use a similar model. We are working with Sitara and SIDM to try and see if there can be a India-focused defense fund, very similar to what the speaker ahead of me mentioned, where we create a fund, but our idea in that fund was that instead of trying to bring in foreign capital, we will try and see if we can de-risk the Indian businesses and try and see if we can make Indian startups exactly the way we are more attractive to the investors who are coming in. I think that's pretty much what the journey that we move forward. There is no doubt, I think everyone here agrees that the startups require significant amount of support, right? Like we have come here for the last 4 years, we have built this business, we have taken the products. Just like what Ashok ji was telling ahead of me, now we are in a position where this 5, 10, 15 crores that I'm able to raise is not enough for me, right? For me to just execute the orders that the Air Force and the Army has trusted us with, I need hundreds of crores. I need land, I need buildings, I need machinery, I need to be able to service the bank guarantees. That is just 15% of, let's say, 200 crores that I'm picking up. That is more money that I can raise. This is exactly what Ashok ji was mentioning earlier, saying that this is the stage at which we require the DPSUs and the larger private organizations to be able to step in, either as investors or joint venture partners, etc., to be able to build the larger institutions or the larger companies that are feasible. It's been wonderful talking to everybody here. I had very, very little to speak, but I hope I've communicated what we have done and how I think the entire industry can use, whatever little difference of strategy that we've been able to pull off. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Dr. Shivaraman. Another perspective and good thoughts on how these startups and MSMEs can be funded, can raise funds. Thank you so much. We may take 1 or 2 questions from the audience if they have, because the startups and MSMEs, if you have any queries, they are the dignitaries and the speakers on the dais are there. We may have 1 or 2 questions on this financing and investment in MSMEs if they have, because most of the points have already been covered. In case you have any point, you may raise the hands. We'll have 1 or 2 questions, quick questions, because the time is already there. That's up. Can we have the mic, please? In the front row. Yeah.
Good morning to everybody. I have a question, not a question actually to one person, but DRDO as a whole. electronic harassment and gang stalking. Remote neural monitoring was launched by the USA to capture the brains of the defense ministries and the finance ministries, and it has now entered India. Are we trying to create a solution for this? Are we aware of this?
I'm not sure whether it is from the topic, but
No,
we
it's
have
for
one of the
DRDO,
representative
yeah,
from DRDO, Mr. Arjun Kumar, the Associate Director from TDDF. Do you have anything to comment on this, Arjunji?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. As such, you know, the DRDO is working in many of the disruptive technologies also. We have a dedicated Director General Life Science who is working in various kind of a labs, which is working in many areas, not only from the R&D from the DRDO side, but even through the TDF mode also. So I will cover most of all the technologies we are developing through the TDF in my presentation very shortly. And if you have any more specific question for anything,
Right.
then probably we see. And
Then we can probably take it after the session. We can take it
Yeah.
separately from. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you, our speakers on the dais, especially obviously Dr. Samir V. Kamath, who has been the guest of honor for the day, and Mr. Salil Gupte from Boeing, Mr. Ashok Padawan from Adani Defense, Captain Nikunj Parashar, Dr. R. Shivraman, and of course our chair for the Gujarat Chapter Defense Committee, Mr. Dhaval Rawal. We also thank our partners for the conference, Boeing India, then Starwire, DCM Shriram, Adani Defense, then New Space is one of the companies, and then Abhyuday Mega Defense Cluster, Aeroarc, and Micron Instruments, and Solar Group of Industries. And then EY is our strategic partner also. And it's also supported by IIM Ahmedabad because we are talking more about the innovation and incubation. We have a speaker also in the next session. Thank you so much, sir. And we'll be just starting the next session as soon as this dice. We'll have a 5-minute dice change, then we'll start the next session, which is also very interesting. We have people from DRDO Technology Development Fund who will give a presentation to the startups. So we'll just be doing that in 5 minutes. Thank you, sir. And we'll have a group picture together.
Thank you so much. Now, ladies and gentlemen, once again, a very warm welcome to Defense Expo Day 1, happening live and loud here in the city of Gandhinagar, state of Gujarat, the 12th edition. May I request the audience to kindly stay back with us. We're going to get started in next 120 seconds. That's 2 minutes to go. And at the same time, let's get started with the next speaker to set the tone. May I request the speakers to kindly join us on the stage, please. May I start by inviting Mr. Arjun Kumar, who is the Associate Director, TDF Defense Research and Development Organization, Ministry of Defense, Government of India. May I request you, ladies and gentlemen, to kindly stay back with us as we have a very interesting session coming up next. Next, may I request Commander Ajay Panwar, Senior Consultant EY LLP, to kindly join us on the stage, please. A very warm welcome, sir. Next, may I requesting Mr. Vipul Patel, Partner Seed Investing, CIIE, IIM Ahmedabad, to kindly join us on the stage, please. Next, requesting Mr. Sandeep Dave, CEO, Abhyuday Bharat Mega Defense Cluster to kindly join us on the stage, please. Next, requesting Mr. Vishal Saxena, Vice President, Surveillance and Mapping Business Idea Forge Technology to kindly join us on the stage, please. Requesting Ms. Anisha Pal, DGM, SIDBI to kindly join us on the stage, please. Next, requesting Mr. Sudhir Naik, Founder Member, Alpha Chips to kindly join us on the stage, please. And lastly, Mr. Amrendra Kumar Jha, AGM and Zonal Head, ECO Bank to kindly join us on the stage, please. A very warm welcome, gentlemen.
I think if the startups and industry would stay, they will listen how to get the funds. So it's very important topic which all startups and industry should listen it. So I would request, please be seated and see how the government is helping out in funding the industries and MSMEs, the kind of the avenues the government has started. So I would appreciate if the industry would listen it and be seated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, couldn't agree more. If you feel that someone could be benefited from this session, you can quickly call them, drop them a message to join us in the seminar hall too. All the gentlemen standing around us, present under one roof. If you feel that somebody could be benefited from this session, the startups, as I mentioned, please do quickly call them. We're going to get started in the next couple of minutes. And just a quick announcement to ensure that we have our mobile phone on silent mode, respecting both the speakers and the audience in the house. Once again, reiterating, if you feel that somebody could be benefited out of this session, you can call them or text them, and the chain continues. We'll get started. May I request Dr. Nasir Jamal to kindly join us on the dais for the welcome note of the session.
Thank you, and this is actually in continuation to the session which we had begun with. The tone was set. We are talking about financing and investment in defense startups and MSMEs, which is an important factor because we talk about MSMEs and startups, MSMEs being the backbone of the country. More than around 6 crore MSMEs are there in the country, and the startups have joined the race. And this is a strategic sector, a lot of startups are working, but the important factor which is actually, that's actually a factor which is a roadblock for the MSMEs and the startups is the financing. So we are here to discuss about the financing and what are the new avenues for investment in defense sector. One of the speakers in the last session rightly mentioned that in our investment portfolio, we can keep one of the components of investment in defense companies so that defense companies get enough funding, maybe the startups or which are companies which are listed. So we should invest in defense companies to strengthen our defense system. For this session, we have with us Mr. Arjun Kumar, the Associate Director for our Technology Development Fund, which is very diligently working in promoting and supporting and financing the MSMEs and startups. Thank you, Mr. Arjun Kumar, for joining us. We have Commander Ajay Panwar, the Senior Consultant of Ernst & Young, who has been working in this sector, and they are also the strategic partner for this conference. Mr. Vipul Patel, the partner seeding investing CII, IIM Ahmedabad, he's also here. He'll talk about how the IIM Ahmedabad, through its specialized agency, CIIE, is helping the companies through incubators. Mr. Sandeep Dave, the CEO of Abhyuday Mega Defense Cluster, the chairman, is also here. He spoke about how we have to promote the MSMEs. We have Mr. Vishal Saxena, the Vice President for Surveillance and Mapping Business Idea Forge. Then we have Mr. Sudhir Naik, the founder member, Alpha Chips. I hope Mr. Amrendra Kumar Jha, has he also joined in the panel? Mr. Jha is also there. Thank you, Mr. Jha, for joining us. I don't think I have missed out on name of all of them we have missed, and we will be starting this discussion, which is more or a kind of panel discussion, where our moderator, Commander Ajay Panwar, will be inviting every, comments and thoughts from every speaker. Then we can have some questions, queries on that. Over to you, Commander Ajay Panwar, sir.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's an interesting session. You had the morning session where it was on investing. Finance plays a very important role in any, any setup, any business setup. If you have a healthy finance, you have a healthy setup, I can say, or healthy business. I am not a finance man. I am not from the finance background, but I've been tasked to moderate the session. So I will try and do my best. In this panel, we do have, it's a very good panel. We have people from the, say, finance institution. You have people from IIM Ahmedabad, that is seed investing. Then we have people from UCO Bank, which is the bank. He will give the perspective from the banking side, and we do have a person from the TDF, which is the government, is doing a lot in the technical development area. And I would request Mr. Arjun Kumar to share his thought process as to what is the perspective from the government side to see the finances are met by the entrepreneurs who are getting into the defense sector, whether it is the startups or the MSMEs or the large corporates. The large corporates do have the luxury to take the ripples, which many of the startups or the MSMEs do not have. So I would request him to, give his thought process on the TDF, how the government is, helping the MSMEs, the startups, and the new, say, bright people from the colleges which have gotten ideas, but they don't know how to go about it. So I would request Mr. Arjun Kumar to share his thought process, please.
Thank you. I have a very small presentation also. First of all, I would like to thank the team members here, especially from the PhD CCI. At the outset, I would like to thank my Honorable Secretary DRDO and the Chairman DRDO, who has just attended before this session, and he has set the tone that what the DRDO is looking for. So I have a very small presentation. Can I have my presentation, please? Yeah. If you see here, really this Defense Exhibition's 12th edition is actually a path to pride. So with few of my slides, I would like to show you why we should be proud by the various initiatives the government has taken. If you see here, we have the Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. Now we have a Amrit Kal. We have Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. So just I would like to show you how we are going further. This is the mission which the Honorable Prime Minister has set for each and every personal or individual or institutions, that we should have 5 pillars which will boost the overall country's economy. And this Defense Exhibition's 12th edition is going to display each of this, how we are making the technology development in the sector, the defense, and the other for the civil applications also. If you see this Def Expo, the India's defense exports have grown by 334% in the last 5 years. And we are also exporting the technologies more than 80 countries altogether, whether from the DRDO or the DPSUs. And this Def Expo is going to provide an overview of what India has been able to achieve in the terms of the defense R&D, or as a production application and the modern technology specifically. And this DEF Expo is also giving an opportunity for the collaborative approach to bring on board the foreign partners also with the Indian partners to develop the defense critical technology. If you see the Make in India push in defense, it is pushing the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan. And as I told you, the more than 180 contracts under the MOD, whether it is the Make 1, Make 2, Make 3, or the IDEX, or the Technology Development Fund scheme of the DRDO, altogether, if you see, many policies have been initiated in the government itself. If you see, the Ministry of Defense has set a target of achieving a turnover of around 1.75 lakh crore in aerospace and defense goods and services by 2024, including exports more than 35,000 crores. DRDO, we have a hall number 10, where we have displayed more than 430 technologies which the DRDO, along with our industrial partners, we have developed and displayed, which are having a great potential for the exports also and for India also. Very recently, why I'm saying we should be proud. So something I will show you, we should have a proud. That means a big achievement, India's nuclear submarine INS Aryan fires ballistic missile in landmark test, which has the very recent news of the last week itself. And India is now the 6th country who has having the capability of this kind. If you see the year, LCA Tejas, Arudra, Ashlesa radars, Astra air-to-air missile, Akash surface air-to missile, and advanced light helicopter and light combat helicopter, etc., has been inducted into the Indian Air Force. The MBT Arjun Mark 1A is also inducted in the Indian Army, and around 118 main battle tanks Arjun Mark 1A for the Indian Army have been gone into a further induction. First indigenous aircraft carrier Vikrant handed over to the Navy on 2nd of September 2022 by the Honorable Prime Minister. If you see, we have advanced electronic warfare system Sakti, which have been developed by one of the DRDO lab and handed over to the Indian Navy, and INS Visakhapatnam, the first ship of the Project 15B, which was delivered by the Majgaon Dockyard Limited to the Indian Navy at Bombay, commissioned into the forces in November 21 by the Defense Minister. Two sophisticated and potent platforms, which is called Karanj and Vela, have been handed over to the Indian Navy. If you see, DRDO handed over the air defense missile system, advanced shaft technology, production of 12 short-span bridging systems, solid fuel ducted ramjet technology, and medal launch of new generation Agni-P ballistic missiles, the prime ballistic missiles. And similarly, we have a long-range surface-to-air missile also, which has been jointly developed by the DRDO and Israel Aerospace Industries and strengthen the air defense system of the country. And man-portable anti-tank guided missile is also have been displayed here, and that has also developed and is a low-weight and fire and forget man-portable systems. If you see many technologies which the DRDO along with their industrial partners have developed and inducted slowly into the services, and it is giving a great opportunity not for India, even the great export potential for the country for generating and boosting the economy as a whole, if you see. These are the few things which I am just mentioning here. What kind of an initiative government has taken? If you see, the ordnance factories was converted into 7 new defense companies to provide an autonomy. Initiative to expand the Sainik schools. NCC inducted 1 lakh more cadets in the 173 borders. So that means the growth in the defense is not at one place. It is all over these sectors if you talk about. And that is the reason we should have a smile on our face and we should have a proud. And that is why the theme of this defense exhibition is Path to Pride. And now, why I'm coming to my topic, which is the funding avenues available in the MOD, which is Ministry of Defense. If you see, in the MOD, we have 3 services, Army, Navy, Air Force. We have a Department of Defense Production, which is overall controlling and monitoring the activities of the defense public sector units. And similarly, we have a DRDO, which is the Research and Development Organization of the MOD. DRDO is basically having all the design and capability and more than 52 labs all over the country who is developing the critical defense technology. But if you see the address of the Honorable Secretary DDR&D before this session, he was very much accepted that earlier there was a closed ecosystem where the government is only doing the R&D and we are only the production agencies for the development of the technologies. But now this channel is slowly is going to be open. That means we are now offering the industries to come forward to take the technology development path along with the technical handholding of the DRDO and bring the technology to such a level that we can make a global standard items with the help of the DRDO or the stakeholders. That means DRDO will provide you a fund up to 90%. We have a limit up to around 10 CR, but now this increase has recently given by the Honorable Raksha Mantri to 50 CR on 7th of June. I will just tell you. And DRDO has a technology transfer policy also. If you go to the DRDO BAP portal, we have a dedicated BAP portal who is giving a DRDO technology developed by the DRDO offered to the industry. And we have a TDF scheme which is very recently announced in the first budget session. If you see Make in India, for India and for the world, Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, that means the government has taken several policy initiatives. And under Make in India program, to encourage the D&D part from the industry side, to reduce the import of the defense equipments, DAP, which is called the Defense Acquisition Procedure of the MOD, through which we are doing all the capital acquisition, which has already been modified. And various clauses have been inducted, which is giving a ease of doing business to the industries or the startups and the MSMEs. Similarly, 3 positive indemnification list. This is very important. See, until unless this gate will not be closed to you, you will go just outside. That means that the government has taken an initiative by putting an import embargo. That means they are closing the gates. That means we are not dependent on our own industry to bring to a level where they can develop a global standard technologies. And that is why the 3 positive indemnification list has already been introduced, and DPSUs have also initiated more than 2,000 items and 107 line replacement units for the fighter aircraft. Liberalization of the FDI policy allowing 74% in the defense. Simplification of make procedures 1, 2, and 3. Similarly, the launch of the TDF or the IDEX kind of a scheme, which is giving a startups funding or the MSMEs funding, which is giving a great scope for the industry to come forward and take the advantage of the funding as well as the technical handholding. Similarly, if you see the implementation of the public procurement policy, this has also been simplified slowly. And the offset policy with a thrust on attracting investment and transfer of technology for defense manufacturing by assessing higher multiplier factors is also giving a great chance to the defense Indian industries. Establishment of the 2 defense industrial corridor, one in the UP, another is the Tamil Nadu. It is also a great opportunities for the industry to set up their own industries there, and a lot of simplification on the procedures. If you see, the Technology Development Fund was the scheme which was just announced in the Union Budget 14-15, and Honorable Finance Minister Arun Jaitley ji, the late Honorable FM, he has in the Union Budget para 143, he has announced very first time that there should be a fund to the industries, because we don't have a kind of a grants to the industry. In DRDO, we are doing a lot of grants to the academic institutions or the R&D institutions, but never ever there was a grants to the industries from the MOD. And that is why the TDF was initiated in the budget itself, and then in the year 2016, we have conceptualized the whole policy, made the whole policy, and this whole policy has given a boost to the startups or the MSME to bring and to come forward to take the projects against the services requirements. And if you see this particular slide, here the 3 positive indemnification list I am putting here, and if we are putting an import embargo on the systems or the subsystems, so that means it is giving the opportunity to the startups to come forward to realize the indemnification as a plan. Opportunities DRDO, as I have already covered most of our time, we have a 10 center of the excellences and 6 new centers we have opening in the defense R&D in a different academic institution, and 1 center we have recently, Honorable RM has given an announcement to open in the Gujarat University, which is for the cyber, and around 16, and this is for the academic institution. DRDO has also given around 108 technologies and products that we will not work on those. The defense industry should come up and they can take a project under D&D and the Technology Development Fund may be provided for the development of those crucial technologies. DRDO test facilities are also available for all the defense design and development industry to take the advantage. The other thing, very important thing I'm telling you, see, as an industry, I was not aware what kind of a requirements generally we are looking for which need to be indigenized or my industry should work upon it. And that is why the MOD has given a mandate that there should be a portal so that all DPSUs, the Defense Public Sector Units, whatever they are producing a large number of the major systems, how much they are importing exactly. So that kind of a portal has been created by MOD, which is called Srijan Defense Portal, where if you go there, everything will be made available to you. That means you will get the import value year-wise, item year-wise, the specifications year-wise, and if you are having a capability or technical strength, you can contact to the POC of that DPSUs and you can say, yes, I have a capability, I have realized this, and I want to take the advantage of this. And if that particular industry need fund will be provided through the TDF along with the DRDO technical handholding. So this is a kind of a portal. All industries should be aware about this particular portal, which is called Srijan Defense Portal. DRDO, since more than 70 years we are working in the technology. We are a strong technical capability in terms of a DRDO scientist and a strong technical strength with us along with the facilities. If you see, any technologies is arising from TRL level 1 to TRL level 9, and we are funding at each level to various academic institutions. But if you see, DRDO was funding before to academic institutions, the academic professors, or R&D institutions. But only in the year 2014-15, we have created a technology development fund, which is funding to the industry very first time. And beyond TRL 3 to any TRL level, maybe 7, 8, or 9. And this fund was created up to 10 CR, where 90% we are funding and 10% the industry has to put. And we have a range of products developed under the TDF also. These are the few of the research centers. We have different academic institutions. We have IIT Bombay, IIT Chennai, IIT Delhi. We have Jadavpur University, Kolkata also center. And in fact, we have one center in the northeast also, the Mizoram University, and Kalam Center for Science and Technology in the Jammu University also. And DRDO Gujarat University, we have a Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Center for the Cyber Security Research, which is also being created very recently. And Honorable RM has given the go-ahead for opening 6 new centers also with different academic institutions. We have 4 research boards which are working dedicatedly for the technology development: Naval Research Board, Armament Research Board, Aeronautic Research Board, Life Science Research Board. So these are the research boards are funding to the grant to the industry, to the academic institutions for bringing the technology to the next level. We have a dedicated directorate which comes under the DRDO, and MOD basically identifies the problems. The team TDF, the Team Technology Development Fund at DRDO, execute the overall funding and the controlling as a scheme, and we have a dedicated directorate which is called Directorate of Technology Development Fund. We have various industry partners which came on board with us for the development of the technology, and we all working together to realize the global standard technology. If you see what is the scheme, the scheme is very simple. You have to go onto my BAP portal. You have to register yourself if you are the startups or MSME. Just put your portfolio, simple registration, 2-stage registration. 1 stage simple, you will be created a user ID and password if you will go to the tdf.drdo.gov.in, and then you can put your brochure of the company or your technical strength. And once you registered onto the TDF BAP portal, you will get all the updated, how you can apply under the project, how you can submit the project proposal against the project requirement. That also I'll show you. So we have presently, the funding under the TDF is around 50 CR extended, but 50 CR value projects we have not taken. And maximum, the timelines earlier was the 2 years, now it is extended to 4 years. If you see, we have various committees who are overall executing the TDF scheme. We have a simple process. We'll take the project requirement from the TRI services, and finally, we'll do the feasibility study. We will put up onto the BAP portal for inviting the proposal. We will evaluate those proposals, and finally we will award to the industry. And we have a range of award of the project. The very simple project which we have awarded of 32 lakh rupees under the TDF and maximum to 9.97. And because this cost enhancement has been done very recently, so that is why big projects, big value projects, we have not yet opened, but after this defense exhibition, we will open shortly a few of the major cost projects also. We have a 100 marks evaluation criteria to evaluate you, and 60% is the final qualification criteria. This is the dedicated BAP portal, which is called tdf.drdo.gov.in. Every industry has to register onto this BAP portal, and I would be happy to announce here that this is the getting a enormous number of hit website of the India, which is being looked by each of the startup and the industry. And very recently, I told you, Honorable RM has extended 10 to 50 CR. Policy framework is startup, very simple, and everything is very easy of doing business to the startups. Support to startups a lot. We have already told the eligibility criteria, which is the 51% stakeholding of the company to be with the Indian citizenship. These are the few of the innovation which we are carrying out under Dare to Dream innovation technologies also. Our time is very short actually with me. So otherwise I would have not taken much time because all the other speakers are also there. So this is a Dare to Dream innovation contest where we are taking the individual innovators also to give a challenge like IDEX, and then we are giving a TDF funds to bring the next level technology. And on 20th, Honorable RM is going to award the individuals and startups the certificate and the prize money, and after that, getting the prize money, we are funding them through the TDF to bring the TRL level, whatever the basic proof of concept, to the next level. We are working in various projects, more than 65 we have already sanctioned. These are the few projects from the Indian Army, various companies, Astra Microwave, Rafe M5, Yotek, Edal, Larsen to Bro, Time to Technology, Cognate, Gyani, translation of Mandarin speech to English speech, we have awarded to various industries. Indian naval projects, around more than 11 we have awarded, and these are the industries who are developing a lot many technologies with the technical handhold and support to the industry. We have the Indian Air Force projects, many Indian Air Force projects we have awarded, and we are developing the technologies. These are the LCA Tejas Mark 1 and Mark 2 requirement where we are doing the design and development through the industries. Very recently, before coming to here, the DEF Expo, we have awarded 3 projects, 2 to the Newcon Aerospace for the development of the DDF BLDC motors and the BLDC motors with the quadrature incremental encoders. And Gen Coders of the Pune-based company also we have awarded very recently a project. These are the few, yes, finish. And these are the few technology which we have developed, and you can see the technologies at the defense exhibition. We are doing a lot of outreach workshops also continuously. This is the team of the DRDO who is working for the TDF initiatives and pushing all the industries, Honorable Secretary and the other team members, Director General Technology Management, and this is my team. We have started this TDF starting from 3 people, now we are the 30 people. So this is also increasing. Thank you very much. And I would be happy if you visit the TDF stall at the DRDO Pavilion. It is hall number 10. You please visit there. Please register there itself. We have a dedicated people who will register your company there itself. So take the advantage of this government avenues. Many things I want to interact, but sorry, my colleagues are there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Arjun Kumar. But before I allow you to come here, I have only one question for you. I mean, it is not related to DRDO. In the last budget, the government of India announced 25% of the R&D budget will be reserved for the private sector. What are your views on that from the DRDO perspective?
See, if you see here, the 25% R&D, it is a great initiative by the government itself, and these initiative is giving a boost to the Atmanirbharta or the Atmanirbhar or self-reliance of the country. If you see here, the DRDO is working hard to giving this 25% R&D, and that is why we are making a continuous policies for that. And in fact, in the TDF, if you see, the Honorable RM has given a 10 crore to 50 crore. That means whatever we are taking under the import embargo kind of a list, those big platforms we can bring for the development to the industry. And definitely it will give an edge over the many obstacles to the industry to bring and come forward for the technology development as a technical handholding. And DRDO is offering all the labs, facilities to the startups, and they will make you much aware. Each project, whenever we are awarding, we are giving a team of more than 5 to 6 people along with the industry. That kind of a mentoring we are doing through the DRDO or the team of the Indian Air Force, Army, Navy. And accordingly, we are providing all the test facilities. So I think it is a great move. We should appreciate the government initiative. Otherwise, this loop will never be open. Now this loop is open. We want an open culture where everybody was put their innovation or an innovative idea for a development. Because we cannot think at large unless we will not be open or initiative things are taking. Earlier, DRDO labs are very working in a closed loop of a system where industries were only treated as a vendor. But now we are not treating the industries as a vendor. They are the co-developer. These are called the development agencies now. The scenario to understand the industry has entirely changed. And everybody is focused, and the government is mandated and closely monitoring each of the lab and each of the organization to give a support at large, whatever the kind of a industry is looking for. So that is the positive intensive, and that is why I'm again and again saying path to pride. So that is, it is really path to pride. We should proud on the movement and the government initiative and the policy initiative as a whole.
Thank you, Mr. Arjun Kumar. You have given a holistic view in short in the time what is available of DRDO. It is commendable. We have seen DRDO doing wonderful things, and I hope in the future we will be striving for much more in the technological side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for attending and preciously listen my talk. Thank you.
Okay, my next speaker, I would like to invite Mr. Vishal Saxena. He is the Vice President, Surveillance and Mapping Business, Idea Forge Technology. They are the startups. From startup, they have evolved themselves. And all of us who are sitting here, it is for the startups. The ecosystem, we are the part of the ecosystem, but he is the system for which we are all working. Over to you, Mr. Vishal Saxena.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I stand here before you, giving our story, B, giving as to what we feel today, what are the simple hacks, right? What entrepreneurs can do, right? And, let me just begin. This is an incredibly hard place to be. Being a startup and in the defense, right? If I were to say it's an oxymoron, a defense startup is an oxymoron, right? Let me just start up by, saying that. Having said that, we see a lot of initiatives which are coming from the government. I think, the first speaker spoke about those. But let me just stir a little, give you a very, very candid, stir the hornet's nest, so to say, right? And data speaks, okay? So this entire TDF, IDEX, everything is based around the US system called the DIU, right? I really want to know, from everybody around, right? How many projects, how many platforms have come via them? And they had a head start. They came out in 2015, 16, somewhere thereof. And how many have we been able to do? So it'll show, and data never lies, right? And those are very uncomfortable questions. Having said that, we really need to figure out the way to really hack that system. One of the things what possibly a suggestion is that, we are acutely aware that the VCs will not touch us because of the fact that, where the space which we are in. So as an entrepreneur, right, you probably would want to, hack your growth, right? Initial growth, because the VCs will not touch you. So possibly the one idea to think about is that, hey, can I go ahead and look at, I'm developing a technology, but can I look at adjacent markets, right? So adjacent, most military technologies across, if you look at the entire technology spectrum, have been adopted by the civilians, right, in the civil space. But can you just turn the wheel around a little bit? Think a little deeper. Can I build something today which may have a use for the space which we are in, right? Let's say for the civilian market, right? And keep developing. So you're kind of hacking your own growth, right? And I think IdeaForce did that very, very well. When you say that we will go, I think probably our first contracts with the defense happened very late, right? Earlier, we were looking at maybe selling the same technology to a UP police or some special task force and so on and so forth. Because that was incredible, but it was much easier to then selling it to the Indian Army and so on and so forth, right? So that's one thing, look at adjacencies of market, and that's incredibly important for us, for the space which you are in. The second thing what you need to do is that, even looking at, even if I were to give you a supply order from a defense customer, right? A, it will take some time. B, it's not that you're going to make and next day you have money in your bank. It doesn't happen that way, right? There is humongous amount of process, and then you have a lot of agencies which you'll have to go and get your money out. So that's not something super simple. So don't get away with that idea. Even selling is difficult. Getting money out of, getting a product accepted and getting money to the bank is even harder, right? Again, think logically. Can you get a hack around that, right? Can you go ahead and partner with somebody? When I say partner with somebody, there are a lot of agencies, there are a lot of system integrators who may not have that technology, who may not have that, who would be happy to take your technology to the customer. It's okay. You can do probably all the technical selling to the customer. Let that contracting be done by, I hope they are not there. Maybe the L&Ts and the Tatas of the world, right? That's a hack which you can do, and it works very well because the moment it leaves your premise, your software, your hardware, you need cash the next day because that's how you're surviving, right? So can you go ahead and you may give up some value, so be it. But then cash is in a business like which we are in, cash is king. So you really need to think how can I hack that process also. So partnering may be a very good strategy as well. In the previous section, people talked of, there was one gentleman who talked of how you need to possibly go ahead and partner, look at some of these ecosystems like maybe the Adanis, they will pump in some money, they will some equity swap and all. It's easier said than done. And I'll tell you the reason, right? Most of you will not, you'll become you'll become, so to say, an R&D shop for them. You will be just doing customer demos and nothing else. Nothing else is going to come your way. So think hard when you partner some of these large firms, right? It's not super simple because you got to look at their culture fit and your culture fit, right? It will not so to say meet your expectation. The other incredibly simple way to do some of this is look at and I think a lot of that has to do by the government as well, right? And by the stakeholders, right? So you look at all these TDF funds, etc., etc. In my opinion, the custodians of it is a conflict of interest by the nature of what we are trying to do. And I'm being very honest here, right? Maybe what we need to look at is a kind of a fund or an agency like a Anderson Horowitz. I don't know if any of you have heard about Anderson Horowitz. It's a US VC. What they do is that not only do they give you money, and they'll give you, and you come to them, there is a selection process, you go through them, they will probably pump in some money at a pre-decided value. So they will say, I will take 7% and I'll give you 700K or $1 million. It is pre-decided. There is no negotiation. There is nothing, right? And on top of, so it's not only that money which they give you, it's the, it's the access which they get to you, right? Now, the government announced a 25% budget, R&D budget, let's just say, which needs to be kind of privatized, right? So it has to go to, from the government funding, it has to go to, who's deciding that? If DRDO gets to decide that, or BEL gets to decide that, in my opinion, that's a conflict of interest, right? Let BEL be competing for it. Let DRDO be competing for it. That doesn't happen in our country, right? And that's something which we really, really need to think about, get the basic structures, going all right. And I think, some of those things from the strategy perspective, what the startups are doing themselves, and from the government, right? While it is good to announce, while it is good to execute, but you have to fundamentally look at some of these basics which have done, and look at data, right? Look at what DIU has done and look at where we are. There is a fundamental problem still. And like I said, all the best to you. It's an incredibly hard place. Being a startup and being a defense startup is kind of, it's not easy. So pick your battles, pick your partnerships, be smart about, who you partner with, what kind of money you get in, and also look at market adjacencies, right? Market adjacencies are a very, very important aspect of where you are. I'm sure there are a lot of civilian use cases to the tech which you are kind of building. And those may be the lower hanging fruits to go after in the first phase. Keep your eye on the final goal, but get some cash into the company. So that sale which happens, that cash which comes back in the company also is a big morale booster for everybody, right? So with that, I will not take much time. Thank you so much, and all the best to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishal. I don't have any questions for a startup because he has faced the music. He has seen what are the pain areas, and he has brought out certain really relevant points for all of us to think, particularly from the government side. And he mentioned about the 25% budget hike for R&D, how it is, who is controlling it. I don't know who's controlling it, but definitely someone would have to look into it, and his points are very, very valid. I don't have question for you, please. My next speaker is Mr. Sandeep Dave. He is the CEO Abhyuday Bharat Mega Defense Cluster. They are basically setting up the MSMEs cluster in the defense sector.
Yeah, can you please put? Distinguished panelists and august gathering, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for providing this opportunity to PhD Chamber of Commerce for sharing the thoughts and giving an idea about what Abhyuday is doing. Abhyuday is a leading, hello. Abhyuday is a leading engineering and turnkey project management group with a field of cluster development project experience, and we are empaneled with several government agencies. We have multi-domain capabilities and have already developed more than 200 projects worth 4,000 crore. We work with an objective of setting up and develop aerospace and defense cluster to make India a global hub for defense manufacturing with closed loop integration, with stakeholders providing them a backward and forward linkages and dedicated defense manufacturing facilities. In one line, it certainly looks very complex, and it really means, because the entire aerospace defense is certainly a complex industry to talk to. I sincerely appreciate what Vipul has just said. It is not super simple. And that is why the solution also is not super simple. Abhyuday has been working into the defense and aerospace industries as a knowledge gathering and a partner since last 10 years. Is a kind of a journey right from our association with the Vibrant Gujarat with late Honorable Manohar Parikarji for setting up a defense cluster. Till then, we have been working with several countries for the foreign collaborations, industry visits, technology transfers, and helping and working with the industries together with India. Now, but what the learning is, where we are today, right from 2012 or 14 today, what we are. What we understand is that there is a defense ecosystem is very complex. As has been already mentioned by one of the speakers in the previous session, the OEM sits at the top, but he is just as a tip on a pyramid. And there are n number of supporters, those who have to exist for the existence of the top man, which is probably a kind of a missing link for an Indian industry. And this is where, as we just had a discussion with one of the global aerospace company, they said they have more than 3,000 vendors to support their industry. Mostly the OEM or a platform level suppliers, they control the technology, they have a knowledge, they do a huge amount of an outsourcing with their partners, and they have a subsequent partners, and then the vendors, those who are the supplier of components. So as I think DRDO chairman himself said that there is an OEM and tier 3, there are only 2 sectors existing today in India. There is a huge gap between these two, and that is where a system module supplier or a component supplier, they need to get integrated together to come up as a common ecosystem. And that is where Abhyuday is working together. We are working with several government agencies, industry associations, defense PSUs, Chamber of Commerce, OEMs, tier 1 companies, academia, startups, and SMEs. We do have an incubation and startup centers with almost more than 50 startups. We have a tie-up with more than 20 universities for the access of the students for the R&D development work. We work with almost all Chamber of Commerce. We run the free of cost vendor development and this vendor help desk for the Chamber of Commerces. And we hope to have another 5,000 vendors coming up into the supply chain in coming time. We understand that this is a huge business globally, approximately 2.5 trillion. And if we are able to take even the 3%, there's a huge business. So there is a potential, there is a capability, but they are not mapped. And that mapping is a critical part for success of this industry in India. We understand that this entire ecosystem is the part which, if it is taken up seriously, can make wonders. We are setting up several centers of excellences. We are working with Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce has already made several changes. Say, for example, I would like to give an example. Here, the Ahmedabad Engineering Manufacturer Association, they just created a material bank together with a cluster, and they have a huge advantage of the material. So that coming together, working together in a collaborative manner is something that this industry is going to need substantially. So in this particular defense and aerospace infrastructure, we understand the bottlenecks are, first bottleneck is the design and technology constraints. Because most of the time, the technology comes from a tier 1 and OEM companies. So to say, we do not have that many tier 1 OEM companies in India. So where is the technology? There is absolutely no technology, number 1. Number 2, whatever the platforms today we are using are more or less imported. They also do not have a technology backup. Say, DRDO and the ministry, MOD, the armies, tri-forces are struggling hard for an indigenization of the components, but they do not have the spare parts specifications. They cannot go and ask the industries to supply the items because they do not have complete material science understanding about the material which they are using. So this needs an absolutely a design resource lab to do either a reverse engineering or to map from a complete design to a detail engineering to the level of a manufacturing. So we, in a particular cluster, these are the solutions that we are going to implement for. So there will be a common design resource center which can talk about an MIL standards. They can work and prepare systems with aerospace standards which are required for an industry. That is probably a huge lacking today in Indian systems. Another bottleneck which everybody has already discussed in one way or the other, that there is a huge long gestation period. Right from the product development to tendering and the ordering takes 3 to 5 years. Who will fund that entire process? And that's the problem. So first prototyping and the project approval in one boundary has to happen at a place without a capital investment or a capex to be involved into it. And this is where Abhyuday cluster is going to help with the startup and all the companies. At the same time, for all the projects which come, they come with more or less kind of a one-time assignment. This is a very typical industry wherein you do not have a mass production. It's not like you have to supply, say, 100,000 cars. It's not like a material or a 1 million components to be supplied. It is a project specific. If you have an order, it will be in numbers. Maybe Pinaka missiles, there are 20 items. So who will set up a complete manufacturing base just to supply 20 items? No one, and nobody can do it. So the high capital cost just to produce and give it to a particular project is the biggest bottleneck for any industry to just come in, start putting money. So Abhyuday cluster is looking at setting up a common labs and providing all the buildings and the machineries and all the infrastructure on a lease model. So the moment this project gets over, they can always be free, and that can become an asset-light investment for a setup of an industry. And the next very important is the scale of economy. Whatever we say, India is certainly a big country. India also has a very huge market potential, but it's limited. As one of the speakers has already mentioned, that we have only one buyer. If I produce something, if there are 2 products which are already of not a mark, they are rejected, what will I do? They are just scrap. I'm also responsible to see that the scrap is being disposed of within the protocol. And that is where I do not have a scale of economy to really make the products to the level that has been to be produced. And that is why the access to the global market is essential. So this is where the Abhyuday Bharat Mega Defense Cluster is providing this entire support and the hand-holding in forward and backward linkages to the partners and the vendors. I'm very happy to announce today we have more than 600 vendors, sir. They are ranging right from the mechanical, electrical, electronics, avionics, casting, forging, advanced manufacturing, pure chip design to complete electronics components, and they can take up. Another very important aspect in the whole thing is that all the platform level items, whatever we are talking about, or complex systems which are currently being used in aerospace and defense, they need a complementary hand with the industry to industry. It cannot work in an isolation. We have seen that in a war like in Ukraine, now the war has gone from a land to air to space. That means there is a solution which needs a competence and the capability to handle everything, not only mechanical, but it needs an idea or an encompassing knowledge to work on a project which is not possible for a small industry to talk about. And that is why a comprehensive approach to work onto a larger platform is extremely required. And that is where it becomes a collaborative approach. This is what ABMDC is providing. So we propose to set up a hub and spoke cluster model, with being Ahmedabad as one of the model. All other places which we have listed out are working on to a respective center of excellences which can be used and can be accessed. So rather than duplicating the capabilities, it will use the capacities of each of them into a respective areas and help each other into making a complete job together.
Sir, if you can speed up, sir.
Yeah, there's just 2 lines. So it will have basically a basic infrastructure, the core common facilities, or a kind of a dedicated defense infrastructure which is purely for a specific requirements. several items which are already listed. I don't want to just list them out, but like 3D printing, metal printing, prototype development, plug-and-play labs. A short list of the MOUs that we have for capacity building with the universities as well as the Chamber of Commerce. There are several ongoing projects we have online, and I'm very happy to say that we are launching the funds of the fund, which is of a 200 million for first time in India to help all the aerospace and defense companies. This will be an initiative that we are taking up for the financing of A&D. That is a mix of a debt and equity fund, and that can be suitable and working out with an industry's requirement. We look forward for everyone to just come in and join us. We have a stand there in the Gujarat Pavilion G, wherein we have already displayed more than 20 project level items. Platform level products are also there. And the cluster model advanced projects are also being displayed in a cluster. So we invite every one of you, and please come and join the hands with us for financing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Dave. Before you go, I have only one question for you. Government of India announced 2 defense corridors in UP and Tamil Nadu. In your perspective, are these 2 corridors a success, or it is what? I leave it to you. I will not go into the controversies for that. I will put it this way. In your perspective, for the state of Gujarat, do you think that a similar cluster could be helpful?
Not similar. It needs several corrections. And that's where we are about to do it. I think you got my answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
My next speaker is Mr. Vipul Patel. He comes from IIM Ahmedabad. I would want him to speak about Nidhi.
From providing up to 25 lakhs non-dilutive capital to a $5 million equity investment. That's the whole range we operate as an organization. We have a dedicated, so we are a sector agnostic, but more focusing on the 3 themes: deep tech, inclusion, and sustainability. We support few startups in the defense tech as part of our deep tech effort, and Idea Forge is one of the company we supported, invested in long back. Is one of the investment. As Sir has mentioned, I'll basically talk about the stage we operate and how we are supporting and utilizing some of the scheme of government of India in terms of like catalyzing the startup. So if you look at like overall as a India, right, we generally classify, we have 3 waves happen, or out of that 3 waves, 2 waves already happened and we are in a 3rd wave. The first wave is basically we generally talk about 2000 to 2010, which is basically era of, you can say, services, IT and IT services, right? So India has taken the advantage of basically cost arbitrage and basically our software talent tool, and we have built giant software for the global market, right? And that's the period where TCS, Infosys, and Cognizant of the world has been born. Second era we look at is basically from 2010 to 2015, which is we call as consumer internet era. We have seen what happening in the world in terms of the e-commerce, payments, and even hospitality everywhere. And India has built whatever the e-commerce player like Flipkart or like Laserpay of the world in fintech, and OYO of the world, or even a Ola and everything, right? So that's the second era. We classify this era from 2015 to today is basically innovation first, right? So we now have a talent not only for the software, but we have a talent in hardwares and everywhere, and that's where this is a time where India is producing a lot of disruptive solution for a global market. We are building now IP-led innovations and also basically building the novel solution for the overall market. As an organization, and now if I talk about the defense as a particular sector, it's a tough sector everyone had talked about, right? It's a tough sector, and even if you look at the overall startup journey, we classify from initial prototyping to you are getting your first customer. We is a valley of death, right? So most of the companies failed in that particular period, and how we can catalyze or how we can actually provide a support over there. So as an organization, we basically operate multiple seed fund. We work very closely with Department of Science and Technology, where we operate Nidhi Seed as a scheme. We work very closely with MIT, Ministry of Electronics and IT, where we are managing some money from the TIDE scheme. IDEX anyway is part of the defense, and we also have our own balance sheet money, which we have basically raised through different CSR and the corporate. So the way you look at it is basically for any defense company or in general any innovation or in any tech company, when they reach out or when they're building the first prototyping, and they'll say, okay, I built this something and now I have a bunch of assumption. So this product is I am going to sell to X person, this is a price point, all the assumption. And how we can validate that. So what generally we do over there is basically we say, okay, as an organization through this different ministry and our own pool of capital, we provide up to 1 crore checks for the equity investment. Now, if you look at basically, if you classify the seed investment is basically not in terms of ticket size, not the same for all the companies, right? So there are IT companies who can use 50 lakhs and validate their model. If there is basically another RT plus hardware company, they required $500,000. But there might be a company like something who is building from defense as a sectors or even space as a technology. They required might be more than $1 million to even just to validate their initial model. So as an organization, we generally say we select the company, we upfront commit this 1 crore check, and then we reach out basically to a lot of people in our network. So there are a lot of alums of IIM Ahmedabad, a lot of early micro VCs, and a lot of other individuals who are associated with us, and we basically channelize that money. So if you look at all the seed investment we have done in last 2 years, my 95% of investment is co-investments, where and these are the money we have channelized. So we are not charging anything for other people to participate with us, but we basically put upfront our risk capital and say, this is the capital I am committing, and do you want to participate? So that is a way we operate, and we already have around 7 to 8 defense tech companies in our portfolio, and we are also trying to basically channelize more money through CSR and creating a separate corpus for supporting companies in a defense sector altogether. Now, just I'll just spend few seconds on, like, we have talked about the VCs, and we say, okay, they are not might be a right fit for this sector. So if you look at VC as an industry, it's not like all VCs are relevant for these sectors, and there is a reason behind this, right? So if you look at any fund, any VC fund, they are coming with the 8+2 years timeline. So they raise the capital from their investor and say, this is within the 8 years, they will provide this capital back to their investor, right? So there is a period where they have to play. When they talk about some of the hardcore sectors, let's example, space tech, defense, and all the sector, this gestation period is longer. And that's why they are not able to might be support all the company in the early stage. But at the same time, if you look at, and if you look at in last 2 years, 3 years, you will find there are VCs who have basically defense as a investment thesis, and they are investing. I'll take an example of one of the Ahmedabad-based company called Axio Bio, right? This is a company started in Ahmedabad. What they are making is they are making the bandage for the blood clotting for the army, for the forces application. And we spent initial 5 years to build the product. It was completely funded by a different incubator, accelerators, and they gone, and as soon as they validated the market, after that they are able to. So the people like Excel, IDG of the world, they've invested in this company. So what I'll say, it's like VCs are not averse to this sector, but this thing will evolve over the period. They might be looking like there are other organizations will de-risk this company. They provide initial catalytic capital, and over the period, like, other people will come in the picture. So still this industry or this sector is emerging, and I think overall, like, capital will be going to come from like everywhere. It's not only for the government organization, but all the private sectors, VCs, and everyone will be also looking this sector very closely. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gopilu. I don't have any questions for you. My next speaker is Mr. Sudhir Naik. I would want him to share his experience over the journey of the startups, because I overheard that he has associated with 2 startups before. So that is much more relevant for all of us to hear your perspective on the startups and particularly on the financing side.
Thank you, sir. 10, 15 minutes?
Sir, you just have 3 minutes. I'm so sorry because we are running short of time.
So, I will talk something completely different, which I think when we talk about defense and aerospace, we think of big things, big structures and all those things. There is a massive market available, accessible, if you take a software and electronic system design manufacturing. I did my first work with Cochin Shipyard and Naval Dockyard for frequency converter, because all ships come with 60 hertz. So we developed 50 to 60 hertz converters in 1973. And I migrated my journey from there. Today we work with Collins Aerospace, Safran's, Boeing, and everybody. And you will be surprised to see that the fund availability in this sector of IT and ESDM is massive. If you look at the recent semiconductor policy, 50% is made available by Government of India, and 40% of that is available from Government of Gujarat. So if you need a $10, $7 government is gifting you upfront. You need to take out only $3. Now, who will give you this kind of facility? Even if you look at this Foxconn and Vedanta, the government is going to give 50% to start with. Now, we don't want to, as a startup, we are talking about, we cannot think of billions, but we can think of billions. There is a lot of auxiliary things which are going to be low-hanging fruits. And there are different models to apply. Like I did one of the job with Bell. Now, they wanted us to develop a video management software for taking out of all their godowns, warehouses, and other places. How do you do that? Now, it was $1.5 million worth of business. So we were small at that point of time. Today we are around 1,000 crore plus. We do around 20 million worth of business with Boeing and Safran and other peoples and Bell. So we decided that we will develop this for you. Now there is either you can own the IP and take the money, whatever money you want to take on the licensing basis, or you develop and hand over the IP. So we handed over the IP to them, and we said that we will have a time-bound program and we will invoice you every month. And I think today this is well accepted. Even if you are doing business with US companies, 15 days money is given, and likewise it is not like India, where the responsibility of payment is on supplier. At least in US and abroad, the responsibility of giving money is on buyer, because their bank rating is going bad actually. So we started our journey. First time we made a power electronics and automation business, which was finally got acquired by Hitachi. Second, we started E-Info Chips. We were the first company here in Gujarat to start chip design facility and embedded product design facility. Today we are more than 3,000 people. Again, we got acquired in 2018 by Aero Electronics, and GVFL has given some investment in earlier days. They took 10 times more money in dividend, and they invested 4 crore and they got 50 crore when we got sold out. So by investing 4 crore, they got 100 crore. So it is not necessary that every business of yours need huge finance and you cannot repay. There is a way out to work. There is no necessity that your company should be defense-oriented company only. You can have your business and then have 10% or 15% of your resources allocated to defense. Make money, build your credentials, and then jump. Today there are a lot of tenders, small tenders coming from BEL to build a reference design. They want to make all their guns electronics based. You look at all missiles. I think in 1983, late Dr. Abdul Kalam, the missile man, has started this integrated guided missile systems program. And in 2000, we have Agni 6 starting from Prithvi to Agni. Now, if you look at those missiles, how much percentage of the business is in electronics and in software? You think of, you get up until you sleep, you cannot think without software and semiconductor. Mukesh Ambani has said that the data is oil. I said, I modified. Semiconductor is first, then data and then oil. Our import for semiconductor is going to exceed the oil bill in no time. Foxconn will take 3 years to become functional. Till then, we have to continue doing these things. And there is a great opportunity if we start building capabilities and capacity to make use of semiconductor manufacturing in Dholera. I think we all will be benefited. Absolutely, I have no doubt on the bright future for all the companies who start up today. Out of e-Infochips, there are 54 companies, mushroomed, and they are in the same business, out of which 2 companies once again got acquired. One in 200 crore and others in 100 crore. So, defense, everybody says it is very difficult. Where it is written that the life is simple, who has said? Life is going to be difficult here. If you want to be one among million, then you will get accordingly. So you have to take a tough stand and decide what way you want to adjust the business. So while doing these things, I say that tremendous potential in software development, in system development, and you become tier 3 supplier, don't become tier 3, you become tier, go down, down, down till you get enter into the system, and which should be 10 to 15% of your overall business. And then switch, then you can carve out and do the things. But government policies are so great, I have not found any policy where they can support you up to 70%. And this is true for most of the states, it is not necessarily only in Gujarat. Gujarat has done only one thing which is innovative, that not only CapEx, but they are going to give you compensation even in OpEx. And apart from that, there are all subsidies on your electricity bills, stamp duty. I think what more do you want? If you want to do business at 100% money of somebody else, then I think there is a problem. The free nothing works. It never works. Anything you give free, it has no value. People are going to misuse it. So as I said that, suppose SAC, they built a Navy chip first time. I think you know about it. We built global positioning system for marine in 2006. And it was not through satellite. But there was one company in Italy, they were making maps. And those maps were feed. And we built the system to do the navigations into the marine line and then converted onto the road also. And they wanted a complete system wherein they says that we should be able to see the news, we should be able to watch the matches. Once again, we decided not to go for royalty model. We say we will develop for you, it will be your property, it will be your IP, but we will get money every 15 days. So we started e-Infochips 25 years before, and we never went into red. We never enter into red. We have dividend. All the years we give good dividend. When we got acquired in 2018, 500 engineers become crorepati on that night. Some of them got 5 crore, some of them got 10 crore, some of them got 50 crore, including GVFL. So I think there is a way out. And I don't think we should think of tank only when it comes to defense. Think of software. Think of electronic system design manufacturing. Build small reference design. And there is a tremendous need. There is a 12 billion worth of business for maintenance and obsolescence. See, we have all in defense equipment purchased in 1930s. Now, no components are going to be available. All electronics component life is over. So there is a massive business without much investment. You just take the technology and change the components with available component which has a life of 10 years. Nobody gives you electronic component or semiconductor which has a 20, 30 years life. Because today, if you look at mobile or laptop, their life is 3 years. We are in the business of throwing off. No repair business is going on. So develop a system, if nothing else, lot of obsolescence business tenders keep coming, and you can put your hands there. There are a lot of ways. I think I don't have time because I have a big presentation. What are the areas what is the market size, everything. I will not do that because otherwise nobody will speak. But I can assure you that if you want to have a startup, your children, grandchildren, look at electronics business, look at the software business, which can serve the common public as well as defense as well as aerospace. And money is not an issue, I can assure you. If anybody feels, I have been assured by Nehraji, who is the Secretary for Defense and Security, that if you need 250 crore, Sudhir, I can give you. He said, don't worry on money. So I think that's the way, and with this Foxconn coming, people say that Gujarat has missed the bus for IT. I say, yes, we missed the bus for IT because we wanted to embark on bullet train.
Fantastic.
And we are entering. I tell you that in 5 years, the GDP of Gujarat will be 3 times because of semiconductor and auxiliaries. Those who are in trading, we need 300 kind of special oils of globe. And today no country independently can build the chip from sand to silicon. So there is a great opportunity, boss, everywhere. Just get out of thinking from tank and drones and steer yourself to a different thing where easy money, big money with high margin. Whether it's a defense or it is, we never work less than $35 an hour. That is the minimum. Whether it is, if we don't want to do business in India, we will not do it. Because the cost of engineer, you will surprise. It is 6 times to 7 times multiplier of the years of experience. In my own company, there are so many engineers who gets between 60 lakhs to 1 crore rupees package every year. Now, if you want to do that kind of business, you have to make big money. If you want to make big money, you have to add big value. So look for big value business and not easy business. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Naik. That was very inspiring. I'm sure many of us sitting here will be, after this session, will come back to you to seek more advice from you. It was a very positive scenario, what you have explained to us, and I'm sure all of us will gain from this. I have my next speaker is Ms. Anisha Pal. She is a DGM in SIDBI. Ma'am, all yours. Ma'am, only one request. We are short of time. If you can restrict yourself to about 3 minutes.
Keep it short anyways. I guess I must be one of the persons who caused this delay. I'm extremely sorry for that. What can I say? I was going round and round in circles for 1 hour. And I was on the verge of giving up when I was finally able to contact Nasser, and then I found myself here. Good afternoon, everyone. I am from SIDBI. And SIDBI is an apex institution for the financing, development, and promotion of MSMEs. So we are now talking only about defense, but let's understand MSME ecosystem involves all types of products, which includes defense products. And I'm proud to say that SIDBI has funded such MSME units who are actually manufacturing some small component and supplying to some of the defense sector companies. And I guess somebody over here in the panel said that a lot of R&D is required before you get approval to supply a product to any company manufacturing defense products. And he's absolutely right, because a lot of design, approval, processes involves a lot of, it's a very lengthy process. At each stage, somebody will come and do the inspection, and then again you move to the next stage, again somebody will come and do the inspection. But the good thing is any MSME who is into general engineering, they can manufacture any product pertaining to defense. And SIDBI has presently schemes which are pretty easy and comfortable for any company who is thinking in terms of expansion. You continue with your present products, whatever it is that you're manufacturing, so that your business flow does not get hampered while you try and do some R&D and produce some new products. So we are here for that, and under that process we have a scheme by the name of Arise, wherein we give you funding up to 500 lakhs for an existing entity brownfield unit. It's going to be 100% funding is what we do. It's linked to repo rate. So you don't have to even bring in promoters' contribution. You don't need to worry about collateral. If it is more than that, that is above 5 crore, there will be promoters' contribution. There will be collateral required, but that would not be like, 100%. So you take 1 crore loan, you give me 100, you give me 1 crore collateral. That is not how we operate. And suppose somebody wants to set up a new entity altogether. You've done your R&D and everything, got all the approvals. Now you're confident of getting a big order. So you want to set up a new company which will be only and only producing defense sector products. In that case, what you do is approach us for a greenfield unit project funding. We will fund you from the building till the working capitals, which would include your machinery components, your MFAs and everything. So in that way, you can, whether it's a brownfield entity or a greenfield entity, you're welcome to come to us. We are here to serve you. Rate of interest has never been an issue. If you visit SIDBI website, you will find our rate of interest is lowest in the market. The good thing is ARISE is linked to repo. Even SAPAN, which is meant for greenfield units, is also linked to repo. And if you're coming for working capital funding, that would be linked to MCLR. I'll just give one clarification. We do not give standalone working capital. It has to be linked with term loan. I guess I'll end with that. Any further queries? Anybody has anything specific? I'll definitely answer.
Just one point, yes. You want to
I just want to say one minute, please. Sorry, I just want to give you cream on the pudding. You may not be aware, 2 months before, our Prime Minister Narendra Bhai has inaugurated InSpace. Now that facility is in Bhopal. It is under SEC. The way Abhyudaya mega cluster is providing the cluster and facility for space, anything you want to develop, SEC will not only provide the infrastructure, but they will provide the guidance as well. So their talent is available to your space. Earlier it was not open to the private companies. Now this is designed and made available to private companies. Anything including satellite, if you want to build and deploy, you can do 3. So make use of InSpace. It's an excellent facility. And this is the center for the entire country. Bhopal is going to be the center for InSpace for the entire country. And much more is going to happen there also. So keep that in mind. Thank you.
The last speaker is Mr. Amrinder Kumar Jha. He is the AGM and General Head of UCO Bank. The bank is always the last for all of us. So.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Sir has told, bank is always the last option, but I think it's the most important option. Yeah. So coming to the topic today, we have heard the panelists from first session also and from this session also. If you, from my opinion, I can understand that if you see the progress of our defense in pro-independence area, we have come as one of the leading military power in the global, in this one. Important fact is that most of these are imported only. Now, our Prime Minister's vision is to be self-reliant. And for that, we need our companies to grow. Now, to produce the defense equipments, to fulfill the requirements of defense sector, we require lot of things, lot of companies. And for a company to produce the equipments, to produce the other requirements like software requirements, again, there are multiple phases. And the funding is required at each phases. There is a research and development part, then there is a production part, then there is a marketing part. one of my colleague one of my friend told that there is only one buyer in our country. That is correct, but you see the requirement of that buyer. It's immense. And if we are able to supply it to that buyer, it is the global market is open for all. If we can fulfill the requirement of Government of India for defense sector, we can fulfill the requirement of any military across the globe. So see the market. Now coming to the funding part, as a banker, I will tell, banks will always be there, but then again, banks will be bounded by the policies of the Government of India, Reserve Bank of India. So for research and development, we all heard that 20% of the budget has already been given by government for private sectors. It's a huge budget, and I am sure most of you will use this facility, use this opportunity to go for research and development part. Then comes the production. Banks will be always there, as Madam told, that SIDBI is also doing the funding. But yes, when bank is coming into the picture, they will see the guidelines has to be followed. And I will tell you, there is multiple type of financing that will happen. There will be, banks are also doing project financing. So if you got an order, you have to fulfill the requirement. You can approach the bank for project finance also. And at the closure of that project, that finance can be completed, or you can continue with for next project. And there are two types of funding that ma'am have already told. There is a requirement of term loan, there is a requirement of working capital also. So term loan will be there for installation and setting of the infrastructure. Then working capital will be required for continuation of the business. As a banker, I can tell you that banks will be always there to help the firms, the companies, startups and MSME. We have to take the opportunity, and definitely you will get the benefit of funding from not only from banks, from SIDBI and for any other financial institution. If you have any requirement, do come to us. We have different type of programs, different types of products for MSMEs that includes defense sector. So you can visit our website also. There are different types of products, and there is no limit on requirement. We can fund up to the setup done by bank. So there will not be any issue for fund. If you have any requirement, please let us know. We can discuss, we can finalize. It's in fact, it's a moral duty of especially public sector banks to fulfill the vision of our Prime Minister and do the whatever is necessary to make the Atmanirbhar Bharat happen. I don't have much time, so I will say always, we are always available. Please feel free to talk to us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I just have only one observation, and that observation is for all the financial institutions. Please look at the startups and MSME with a compassionate view, because the big players, they can sustain the ripple. MSME, he is always hand to mouth as far as the finances are concerned. His finance gets stuck somewhere, then he does not know how to move the next step. Particularly in the defense setup, where the finances get stuck for some time. So he does not know, because he has to turn over. He has to turn over his finances. So my request would be to all the financial institutions who are in the panel here, please look at the startups and the MSME with a little bit more compassionate view, irrespective of the government policy. Government policies would be there. So this is only a request to you, sir. Thank you, sir.
I got your point, but still government policies and RBI guidelines are there that we have to follow in any case.
I understand that.
Thank you.
Yeah, please.
As I was just now saying, first of all, SIDBI anyways is meant for only MSMEs. We have a separate wing altogether who is looking into startups funding because that's a very niche area. So a regular banker would not know about how to appraise that case. And SIDBI is into startup funding in a big way. Apart from that, this product that I told you, wherein we are doing funding up to 5 crore, free of collateral, and it's 100% funding even without the promoter's contribution, is meant for MSMEs so that, their cash is not blocked. Because we all know large corporates take a lot of time to make repayments of purchases made. And that generally does not happen in 45 days, although that is what is the norm. So by letting him keep his promoter's contribution, we are in a way actually helping him in ensuring that he has enough cash with him to take care of his requirement.
Thank you. I will just open the forum for one or two questions, if anyone has got, because we have already overshot the time. Just a question or two, if anyone has got. Yeah, please. You may please identify yourself before the question and then ask.
Rahul. So basically, I am founder of SB Technologies. So I think the session was very inspiring. I think Abhyudaya told us a lot about the ecosystem, I think. But my question is to Mr. Sudhir Nayak. So I want to ask you, sir, you have given a very good direction of, contributing around 20% of your resources towards these maintenance and these, low-hanging fruits. So what do you think is the right way to approach this, and what is the strategy that one should have? And how should one look at various different areas and then approach this? So just more details onto that if you can talk about.
So don't try to look at the very big business from the beginning. Start looking at small things. As I was just saying that there was a tender of almost $2 million worth, where you have to build one SOM. SOM is a system on module. So you take a, let's say, Qualcomm chip, and then make a small piece out of it, and then you have to code for that. Now, this business is primarily for the ESDM manufacturer, means those who can manufacture at reasonable rate. So there are two things. One is the people like us who are in a, I call it a service business, not in a product business. They try to make money in design as well as in manufacturing. Now, manufacturing margins are very low, 7 to 8%, even in electronics, ESDM, if you go there. What they do, they amortize over a 5 lakh or 10 lakh pieces. Now, in defense, they don't going to need 5 lakh and 10 lakh pieces. So they will keep their hands off. So these are the sweet spots. So you start with this kind of a small businesses. Same thing in software. You try to do software which is not for the satellite. You start the software for, let's say, one of the projects which we did is that they want to train the pilots for defense. So there has to be a communication with time spans on the cockpit, on the control tower, and on the ground stations. So everything is recorded in real time and then reproduced and then check the behavior. Like in autonomous car, ADAS system, if you look at it, the driver behavior is recorded, and then drivers are, at the end of the day or at the end of the week, they are guided that this is what you did wrong and this is what you did right. Those kind of small places you do it and hang on to a, see, in service business there is a problem. Because if L&T is a service company or Adani is a service company, you are a service company, then there is not much of the money for everyone. So you have to start with a low margin business and then migrate to the high margin business. But you have to build, see, the most important thing is to build the credentials. So once you have credentials that you have worked for defense or aerospace, you are in. For building that, you work at low margin on small pieces. So brick by brick, you make the wall. Don't try to take an order of the wall. Otherwise, you will be bankrupt. Thank you.
I can just add one more thing. What Sir has said is any startup or any MSMEs, just look for two things. One is quality product and second is timely delivery. Please make these two as your mantra. Balance, everything else will follow in the stream. But most of the time, we get stuck in these two. Either way, and that is where your money is stuck. Somewhere the quality is a problem, somewhere the timely delivery is a problem. Am I right? Any other questions before I close the session?
As we know that the Technology Development Fund, the payment that we are giving to the industries or MSME once shortlisted industry will give a payment maximum 5 milestones and linked with the milestone activity. Very first milestone, we are keeping a very slow and low profile, which is called a PDR, which is called a Preliminary Design Review, where no intensive equipments, consumable, anything need not to make. Only you conceptualize your design approach and make a document and take 20% of fund as a reimbursement. That is a most suitable thing. And if you are a well-settled company, if you can give a collateral amount of BG to us, you can take an advance also. So that is why PDR is a very small document. Just make it realize and take 20% so that at least you have a fund for rolling on for the project as a whole. So this is the approach we are following. Thank you.
Statement of work, SOW you signed.
Now it is left to me to just thank the panelists, all of them. I think we had a wonderful session where perspective of the startup, the financial institution, the DRDO, and the ecosystem which is being developed for the startup, because he is the man, as I call it. If I take an analogy with the army, he is the infantry. Balance, everyone is supporting the infantry, whether it is signals or the logistic or this. So here it is the startup or the MSME is the man who is actually doing the work, and all of us as part of the ecosystem is supporting him. So I really thank each one of you. I hope the audience here are able to take something from this session. And we are all available here to connect post this session if anyone has got any other queries to be taken up. Thank you.
Well, thanks to you, sir, Commander Ajay Pawar. What a well-moderated session, I must say, and thanks to all our panelists as well. To get started, may I request Dr. Nasir Jamal to kindly join us on the stage and hand over the memento to all our panelists and the moderator. On that note, let's get started. As they say, ladies first, maybe I can invite Miss Anisha Pal, DGM SIDB, to kindly join us. And am I? What a wonderful, simple yet crisp session by Miss Anisha Pal. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us. Next, may I request, I'm starting from that corner, Mr. Amrendra Kumar Jha, AGM, one of the most important man under this roof, as they say, bank being the last resort, but also the most important one. Thank you so much, sir. Next, may I request Mr. Arjun Kumar to kindly join us, as we have got to Dr. Nasir Jamal, who's the Secretary of Defense and HLS, who's handing over the memento to all our esteemed panelists. Next, may I request our own moderator, Commander Ajay Panwar, to kindly join us. Requesting Mr. Vipul Patel to kindly join us next. What a wonderful insight given by Mr. Vipul Patel. Next, may I request Mr. Sandeep Dave to kindly join us next. He did talk about the bottleneck and the solutions at the same time, the challenges that is being faced by the industry. Next, may I request Mr. Vishal Saxena, Vice President Surveillance. I absolutely love the storytelling session, I must say, sir. Thank you so much. And may I request Mr. Sudhir Naik, the most important man, the very interesting session and some of the important takeaways from his session. Thank you so much, Mr. Sudhir. And at the same time, thank you so much. Of course, as they say, and I would like to repeat, they say that all the memories should be captured in the camera thanks to our photographer and the video person who is helping us to capture the moment. Well, thanks to each one of you, to the wonderful audience especially. Well, the coffee and tea is being served outside. Please help yourself and do not forget to connect, to network and ask all your important questions to all the important panelists who joined us for this segment. Thanks to each one of you once again.